Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
This podcast is brought to you by patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Head there to check out exclusive podcasts like Talking Futurama, Talk King of the Hill, the What a Cartoon Movie podcast, and tons more.
Cartoons from present and the past. Every week will be an animated bash. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! Maybe a short but mostly shows. We'll talk, we'll analyze, exploring as we go. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to What a Cartoon, the podcast that welcomes you with a bowl of spaghetti. I'm one of your hosts, the invisible hunk, Bob Mackey, and this is an audio exploration of every cartoon ever. Who is here with me today, as always?
Henry Gilbert, and what a Sugoi cartoon!
And who is our special guest on the line?
Peter Potamus, who lives in Jellystone, a.k.a. Toby Jones.
And this month we're looking at the Jellystone episode, Space Con.
I've been training for this moment my whole life. Follow my lead. He's the spaciest the ghost, the ghoul who's a jewel. You want to kiss him? I want to kiss him. Space Ghost!
And joining us once again is our old pal Toby Jones, who I believe last joined us for the Talking Simpsons about Lady Bouvier's lover, and then way back in 2019 for our second episode about OKKO, Let's Be Heroes. So Toby is here because he knows about cartoons, and also because Toby storyboarded the damn thing we're talking about today.
That's correct. I was a writer and board artist on this episode. First ever Jellystone episode I ever did. A lot of fun. Excited to talk about it.
And we also talked about one of my favorites we had with you also was with Owen Dennis, where we talked about the regular show episode Brilliant Century Duck Crisis Special that you guys also wrote and boarded as well.
Yes, I actually revisited that episode recently, and it's such a beautiful thing to hear us, just glowing, not knowing how much the bubble of the animation industry was going to pop several years later.
Oh, I was looking to see, what has Toby been on? And I looked at What a Cartoon. And 2019 was really the year of Toby Jones on What a Cartoon. I'm sorry we dropped the ball, Toby.
Or maybe there was just a lot of ball in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, because we were talking about Evangelion and OKKO and regular show. So you were like a 3-time guest at least in that year. Wow. There might have been something else in there, too.
I remember the Brilliant Duck Century one because, at that point, Infinity Train, only its pilot had been released. Like the first book hadn't even started airing, and so it's just this promise of what's to come with Infinity Train.
There was a lot of hope in our hearts at that time. And look, Infinity Train did. I remember. I think I said that I think I jokingly said that the series was going to make the pilot look like shit, and that was a joke. But also, damn, that series is good. What a great cartoon.
And it's funny to mention regular show because also you are about to premiere or just premiering regular show, the Lost Tapes series.
Yes, that's correct. I had a feeling, in the years leading up to it, I was like, kind of feels like I'm sticking my finger up into the sky and feeling the wind. I'm like, I feel like regular show is probably going to come back. And then when I got the call, I could say that I knew that it was happening and I could predict everything. And so, yeah, I was able to come in and be supervising director on that season, which was a lot of fun. It was a lot of the same people back again making a regular show. It was like old times. It was also the first major production that I worked on that was in person, since the pandemic. And so it really was like old times, getting a bunch of people together in a room, making each other laugh, pitching episodes and going to lunch together, all the great stuff.
Yeah, when it got announced, I thought and it's the Lost Tapes because regular show itself had a pretty definitive ending a few years back, but now it's coming back. even the position at the ending was that Pops is watching tapes of the adventures and all that. So, hey, I'm not asking for spoilers. That's
Yeah, I won't comment one way or the other about the content of the show because JG is very secretive. But what I will say is, JG and Sean Zellis developed this new iteration together, and it was very important to them that they felt that it made sense and was justified to bring back the show. And so they I think everyone will be really excited to see how it all comes together. And all will be revealed when the first episode comes out on May 11th. It's a special 22-minute episode with a really unique structure. And I think it'll be a lot of fun. And I will just say, we did a lot of episodes in the season, and there's so many, many, many funny ones and so much weird and great stuff. So I'm pretty excited. Also, because, there aren't a lot of shows coming out right now that are board-driven animated comedies, there aren't that many. And so I think that it's now more than ever, it's it's a time to appreciate that we get to see a bunch of new episodes of something like that.
So if you're on the Patreon, wait a week. If you're on the free feed, just slam dunk your phone into the ground and run to your television. Forsake the podcast. There is new entertainment to be had.
On broadcast cable, which I'm sure you have.
Oh,
find the coaxial cable. Find a way to screw it into the back of your TV.
Yeah.
And Bob mentioned the Patreon. That's how we're able to do this podcast, by the way. We are supported by patreon.com/Talking Simpsons, which is where you can go back into the archives and hear ad-free episodes of What a Cartoon, like those ones with Toby we just mentioned. Plus, you get podcasts like this one a week early and also ad-free, just like Talking Simpsons. And we also do monthly episodes of Talking Futurama and Talking the Hill, where we cover those super in-depth, just like Jellystone.
Yeah, we have nearly 9 years worth of Patreon-exclusive content, over 200 bonus episodes covering things like Futurama, King of the Hill, Mission Hill, Batman the Animated Series, and The Critic. And if you like hearing us talk about things like Jellystone and Regular Show, we've covered so many seasons of other shows you love at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
Was it hard for you to not mention Duckman when you made that list of
highlights? You know what? We have covered Duckman, I think, 3 times.
Exactly.
And I'd love to make it a miniseries, only if Duckman was more popular. Where is the Duckman reboot? No offense to Regular Show and other things that are coming back, but we're all tapping our watches, tapping our feet, waiting for Duckman's return.
Me too. I'm with you. I would kill to work on a Duckman reboot. Let's make it happen.
And of course, also we have our What a Cartoon movie podcast, which is for the $10 and up subscribers there. If they want to hear even more, it's like 3 extra podcasts. You get to hear the free preview of it every month in your What a Cartoon feed. But if you want to sign up right now to hear what we just did, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, or at the end of this month, we're covering the real last 2D Disney feature animation film, Winnie the Pooh from 2011. And that's just the most recent ones out of years and years and years. 8 years, I believe now we're getting close to, of What a Cartoon movie. Hundreds of hours there. Sign up today at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons to hear it all.
We're going to be at least ankle deep in poo by the end of May. And we want you to be a part of it.
But yes, the series in question today, though, is Jellystone. And I mean, Toby, you have a very specific history with it. But I was curious what everybody else's history is with it. By everybody else, I guess I just mean Bob.
Oh, hi. I'm Bob Mackey. Well, actually, I planned to watch this for a while, and I forgot that it debuted in 2021. I think Henry and I were on the same page. This is a fairly new show. No, it's 5+ years old. And Henry was giving glow recommendations. This was just off my radar for a while. It was difficult for me to watch, but I watched a handful for this episode, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you to Teletoon Plus, which I had to subscribe to watch these episodes, and they give you a real random selection on that Teletoon Plus.
Interesting.
Do they have Bromwell High on there?
You know what? I don't have it in front of me, but it is just like... There are 2 season 3s on Teletoon Plus. One of them is delisted. Another one is an actual season 3. And season 2 has 1 episode? I don't know what's happening. And why can I only watch 1 season of Billy and Mandy? Do I not deserve the other ones? That's what I'm asking.
You're subscribing for a reason.
Yeah. What do I have to do? Does something like really cool happen in season 2 I have to pay more for? I don't know.
Yeah, I when the show got announced, I was excited to check it out, though I will admit I need to have more knowledge of the creator of the show in his previous work. I need to explore his back catalog more, but I was excited for it. And then the first few episodes I watched, I was like, oh, I'm like totally keyed into this kind of style. Like I think one interview with C.H. Greenblatt, he said that this is supposed to feel like Simpsons season 5. It's Jellystone is like a whole city of weirdos who are having their own little adventures all together. And I got to also bring to it my like borrowed from Gen X love of the underused Hanna-Barbera characters, mostly informed by like endless Cartoon Network reruns from our youths.
Yeah, I grew up with a lot of Hanna-Barbera stuff, and like Harvey Birdman, this show was teaching me about characters that were never shown to me.
Yes, yeah.
Like Biscuits.
Yes, so many that weren't even in the like the rotation on Cartoon Network or the USA Cartoon Express.
They were not allowed on the Cartoon Express. They were denied passage.
And I mean, Toby, were you a fan first before joining the show?
Very much so. I had, been working in the industry for a while at that point, and I had never met Carl, but I've always been a fan of his work. Like any good former Toon Zone denizen, I was, for me, Chowder was appointment viewing when it was on, and that and Flapjack were a really big deal to me when they were on. And of course, I really loved Harvey Beaks as well. And when I heard that he was doing a Hanna-Barbera show, it felt like a perfect match. And I'd watched and enjoyed the first season of the show when it came out, and I just kind of heard through the grapevine that they were looking for someone to come and help out on season 2. And at that time, I was really busy. I was like doing a bunch of development, and I was also shooting my movie at the same time. But because I'm such a fan of the show, I put myself in the ring. I was like, hey, I'd love to help out. And yeah, they brought me on, and I was able to do 4 episodes. And I want to mention, I do have a good amount of Hanna-Barbera knowledge, most of which I have honestly received as like ambient knowledge from hanging out with Ian all the time. And so that means that for not for this episode, but for many of the episodes that I did, I needed to do a lot of research to like learn. Like I need to make sure I really know my way around, Thundar the Barbarian or Moby Dick, for example. But my big thing that I really wanted to bring to the table on this show was a cameo from the cast of Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, which I did put in, but unfortunately, for reasons unknown, I think perhaps due to legal or something, it had to get switched to a reference to the Roman holidays. So that's just a little tidbit about my Hanna-Barbera and Jellystone history.
Wow, man. And Ian would be Ian Jones-Cordy, the creator of OKKO, who you worked with on that show quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That you were executive producer on, which we talked about multiple episodes on too. Yeah, no, Ian really knows his H&B. He does. But so do you. I mean, there are, in this episode alone, there are some really deep references that it's another thing I did love about Jellystone in general, is that as I'm watching it with my husband, I will say like, oh, it's that guy. Oh, it's that guy. But I think like 4 or 5 times per episode sometimes. I'll go like, I think I remember that one. And then I have to I got to go to the wiki. I have to go to a Hanna-Barbera wiki.
And the cuts got deeper and deeper and deeper as the show went on, which I just appreciate on principle.
This is just my opinion, by the way. I feel that even though some of the Hanna-Barbera shows had great designs, a lot of them, the writing wasn't there, the animation quality wasn't there. So I'm happy that these designs now get to shine in a much better show than where they came from.
Man, there was like another, here was an example of like the fandom I felt watching the Jellystone show, and how it always, like in Toby's episodes, for one, like would always fulfill like my desire of like, oh, well, a real fan would put this in there, and then something would happen. I'd be like, oh, there it was. Okay, great. And I forget the name of the episode and the writer of it, but it was one of the later ones where everybody in town is getting a theme song except for Yogi Bear. And me in my head, I was like, well, wait, I know Yogi Bear has a theme song. He has a canonical theme song, like, has it better than a millionaire because he's always smarter than the average bear. And they kept talking around it, or they never mentioned it. And then when he finally gets a theme song at the end of the episode, it's that theme song, and they sing it. I was like, okay. All right.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking at that episode. Looks like it was Bill Reese was the board artist on that episode, and he did some really, really, really funny stuff. He's worked on like every classic Cartoon Network show ever.
No, there's so many pros working on this one, you included, like to just have a just storyboards by a former executive producer of LKKO and so many other things. Like, yeah, there's such a high caliber of talent behind the scenes on this one.
I mean, because I love the show that much. I was like, yeah, I just want to help out however I can. Is kind of how I came to them. And yeah, I will say the board crew on the show is a uniquely incredible collection of geniuses who, in a just world, all would be like 5 seasons deep on their own shows, and Carl has a really good eye for talent, and so he brought in a lot of really cool people. I'm just going to name a few of them because I got to know their work through like attending these pitches on the show. I really liked Julia Kay and Tyler Hendricks and Nate Ballmer and Sam Lane, Yotam Peril, and Caitlin Graziano all did like these amazing episodes that are just like so unique and funny because it's such a gag-driven show that allowed people to really like put their voice into it. And then my director on the show, because these are solo boards, and so you work with a director who kind of shepherds the episode through to animatic, is Ron Stanage, and he was like an amazing dude to work with who really plussed up the episode and was really helpful to bounce ideas off of during the board process.
You mentioned Julia Kay. She's such a funny cartoonist. And then when I saw she was working on the show, like I followed her on Twitter, and I remember when one of her episodes came out, she was bragging about how she made it canonical in the show that Yogi and Boo Boo were married.
Yep.
Like, she was very proud of that, which I was like, oh, that's awesome. I did love that too.
Yeah, she did an episode that I really, really love called Heavens to Murgatroyd that's all about like fan fiction. And you're watching a bunch of fan fiction play out. It's one of my favorite episodes.
But a quick background on Hanna-Barbera before we get into Carl Harvey Greenblatt's career. William Hanna, Joseph Barbera, they were the Oscar-dominating creators of Tom and Jerry, and then the mid-50s, when there is a change to the animation market and MGM closes their division of animation, that's when Hanna-Barbera move into the crazy new world of television to animate there, where very few people are animating anything that can actually like move and that you would actually call a cartoon. They made a huge deal. They partnered with Columbia to finance HB Enterprises, and their first animated series in 1957 would be The Rough and Ready Show. But really the one that made them a big hit was 1958's The Huckleberry Hound Show. Like, that was a big hit. Like, Huckleberry Hound was their first major star. Yogi Bear debuted on the Huckleberry Hound Show, and then he very quickly spun off into his own show too. This is also around when they hired some major talent who were kind of available. Not unlike what you were talking about, Toby. Like, Michael Maltese was now available, and so they could start hiring him. Or Iwao Takamoto. Like, all of these theatrical guys were now available to work on TV, and Hanna-Barbera was hiring them up.
Yeah, the Huckleberry Hound fact is one of those interesting things you find out, like how Porky Pig was once a major superstar. It all started with these characters who have now been kind of sidelined.
Yeah, I think I only learned that as like in my teens when in some Hanna-Barbera history special, they showed the Huckleberry Hound Show opening, and it had like version 1 Yogi Bear as just part of the crew marching around. And I was like, oh wait, Yogi Bear is secondary to Huck? That's not how it's supposed to be.
Another thing I like about Jellystone, skip ahead, I enjoy how all of these impressions of long dead comedians are now preserved on a new show. So we have impressions of Art Carney and Andy Griffith and so on embodied in these characters who have been reinvented.
Any character that you can do an easy impression of is an immortal character, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I liked in your C-Lab episode that even classic Jabberjaw even got to make an appearance in that one too.
Yes, that was a lot of fun. That was an idea from the outline that Jabberjaw speaks entirely in like nyuk 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 lingo. Yeah, that was another amazing episode to work on because it was like this like combination of Moby Dick and C-Lab and Jabberjaw like all at the same time, which was a true pleasure to do.
And yes, Yogi was the big star of it. He got so big in his setting of Jellystone Park, where he steals picnic baskets and lives with his good pal Boo Boo, and they sleep in the same bed together and piss off Ranger Smith. Jellystone Park got so big, it actually became a licensed franchise of park grounds. It opened in 1969. They are still around. The brand and parks of Jellystone Parks are still around in the U.S. and Canada.
I assume there'd be so much theft they'd have to close them down. All those missing picnic baskets.
You just can't bring picnic baskets there. That's the one rule. No others. And then not only that, with Yogi Bear and Huckleberry Hound being big, but then in 1960 they even got huge in another side of the airwaves with the Flintstones being the first animated sitcom. And by the mid-60s, it's like how if you, in comic books, it's like, oh, when did all the Marvel characters appear? Basically between like 1961 and 1966. And you look at, well, when did all these major Hanna-Barbera characters, like by 1966, they've got Yogi, Huck, Quick Draw McGraw, Snagglepuss, Top Cat, Magilla Gorilla, like all of these characters are already there by the mid-60s. And they're mostly voiced by people born in 1920, like the legendary Dawes Butler. Like, again, when I looked at this list, I was like, was he every lead character in the first set of shows? It's nuts. And also Don Messick, Julie Bennett, Paul Frees, Gene Vanderpyle, and many others. The Hanna-Barbera collection of characters even grew to have a bunch of action shows like Johnny Quest and Space Ghost and Birdman. It even got a big turn by the end of the 60s with the introduction of Scooby-Doo and the many imitators that would go from there. And then the Hanna-Barbera catalog had grown so big, not just in network, but also in local syndication of all of the reruns they had from the 60s, that it became almost an unofficial, like, shared universe that would be defined in the mid-70s with super shows like Laugh Olympics and Yogi's Space Race.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we referenced a bunch of that stuff on KO. You know, we did our Plaza Olympics episode where we had Dynamite Watkins, you know, speaking right. in that way, and so it is a fun thing to be hearing about all this and be like, yeah, it's like it all loops back in a way.
We grew up with just them all playing at the same time. Imagine being like a boomer kid or a Gen X kid who then sees the Laugh Olympics begin and like, wait, like Scooby-Doo can face off against Yogi Bear?
It is true. Like, I remember, you know, being a kid and not knowing which, like, for example, Scooby-Doo episodes were from which era necessarily. Like, I had an awareness that there were different variants of this show, but they would just kind of, like, come and go on my screen, and I wouldn't know how old or new any of them were.
Or they would, sometimes in the package shows, like the Yogi Bear cartoons when we were kids that got played, it would just be like a 60s Yogi and then an 80s Yogi, like back to back. Like or same with Jetsons. They would just be, yeah. No, Bob, you were a big fan of Laugh Olympics. I remember, like you were, it was, you didn't know who'd win, and there would be a winner every episode.
I was gambling on it at home. No, it seemed to be that there were stakes. I figured, like, this, despite the fact that I kind of knew like what cartoons were, it felt like it could go either way, even though it was already animated and written months or years in advance.
And yeah, Laugh Olympics also kind of really defined what characters' jobs would be or roles would be in like a group scenario, which I feel like continued with the characterizations of the Hanna-Barbera like core teams, even when Hanna and Barbera were still alive. And it goes into Jellystone, like Snagglepuss hosts things because he's the host of Laugh Olympics, is how it feels to me watching Jellystone.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting is that Jellystone is downstream of so many different variations on these characters. And very notably, it's downstream of a bunch of adult-centric versions, you know, because, like, for a lot of these characters, the last time that they were seen was on Adult Swim, most notably in something like Harvey Birdman. And so I think that, you know, I think that finding a new way to bring them into the world, I think, was a major priority. And I think that the way that they did it was through heightened absurdism, you know, is kind of the way that it was done. But it's all, every single one of those versions of these characters is, like, folded in to these versions, I think.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about this, Toby, because these revivals go in cycles. Because we had, when we were kids, Yo-Yogi, not really successful. I don't think that was a successful attempt to rejuvenate the brand. And then 10 years later, we had these Adult Swim shows, but they seem, and the entire programming block in general, seem to have more of a sneering, ironic Gen X attitude towards the characters that we personally loved. This feels a lot more affectionate. Do you think it's like a generational thing? Do you think the times have changed and we want something that's a little more positive? Like, how do you think the intentionality differs from the shows we saw 20 to 25 years ago with these characters?
I mean, it's definitely a celebratory type of tone, you know, and now it's also celebratory of the sneering Gen X versions that we watch, because there's also affection for those. everything is kind of a reaction to the previous thing in a way. And so it's like, if we did another version of these characters where it was kind of the same kind of satirical, more cynical, even like deconstructive point of view that those Adult Swim shows had, it would kind of just be repetitive. And so I think that there was probably the thought was, okay, we'll do a celebration of all these versions. And then to me, like, the secret sauce is the Carl Greenblatt, like, absurdist, gag-driven, like, sense of humor that kind of brings the whole thing together. But I think it is very much like an incredibly warm perspective on all versions of these characters, including bringing in, like, a warm celebration of the adult stuff, even though it's a kid cartoon.
And so the 80s for Hanna-Barbera, the older tunes are still getting rerun endlessly on cable and local television. But the newer shows they were working on were a mix, like they've entered the toy commercial 80s. Not to say they didn't have a success, but like there's fewer 80s characters in Jellystone because a lot of the time at Hanna-Barbera was being taken up with the Smurfs or Pound Puppies, things that are not owned by Warner now after the eventual ownership of Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah, and the licensing thing is really tricky because certainly we would have referenced all of those guys if we could have. And, also Bob mentioned Yo Yogi earlier. Jellystone is a show that loves Yo Yogi, and it's my understanding that we actually were not allowed to directly reference Yo Yogi. And I'm not sure why that is. But I think if we could have, we would have, and that's true of just about any character. Like, for example, season 1, a lot of the Ruby Spears characters were not really so much on the table, but in season 2, more of them got brought in.
Like Thundar, for instance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That did come up in my research, too, that, like, Greenblatt said they wanted Yo Yogi, but couldn't say why, but they got in a character just saying, Yo Yogi to Yogi.
Someone owns the rights to Yogi's hat from that series, I think.
It must be.
Depicted.
It must be in the jacket. Yeah.
Yeah, the jacket too.
So yeah, it says the 80s end, like the USA Cartoon Express is the home of most of the Hanna-Barbera characters. They are seeming to be very successful on cable. And as the 90s begin, not so great for Hanna-Barbera with shows like Yo Yogi and Tom and Jerry Kids. But then the big change happened in 1991. Hanna-Barbera thought they were going to get bought by the owners of the USA Network to continue on there, but instead they got outbid for a paltry $320 million by Ted Turner, and it was enough of a back catalog of cartoons, not just to fill up TBS and TNT, but perhaps enough to have a network of entirely cartoons.
It'll never work.
Now, Hanna-Barbera, the men were still around and they were working on stuff into the 90s and including overseeing like long-term film projects like the Jetsons movie, which was ambitious. And they also even worked on some of I believe it was Hanna directed a new Dino short for like the Cartoon pilot program as well. I think Yacky Doodle also got one in that, I think.
I didn't know about the Yacky Doodle one. Those Dino ones are really interesting, though. I find all of the last versions of those characters that are shown, the last shorts and specials that are done before, like the first big wave of Cartoon Network shows, I find those all to be really interesting.
I maybe am getting it mixed up with Yucky Duck. As I was saying it, I was like, you know what? I'm thinking of Yucky Duck.
You're always thinking about Yucky Duck.
Yucky Ducky, Yucky Ducky. I'm making up characters. Yacky Doodle and Yucky Duck, they're not in speaking terms. It got ugly between them.
Now I'm thinking I should have tried to sneak Yucky Duck into one of these episodes. Well, too late now.
Well, so yeah, that kind of is what happens. Like Cartoon Network becomes the home of all of these reruns for like so much of their programming is those shows just to fill up all this time. And I remember when we got Cartoon Network on our cable package in Orange Park, Florida, it was an event to me. Like I think I didn't change the channel from it for days. And even though it was like, I don't care, this is a Penelope Pit Stop marathon, I don't know what Penelope Pit Stop is, I'm watching this entire series of episodes because I have Cartoon Network now.
We didn't get it until maybe 96, but I was seeing a lot of previews of Cartoon Network shows on TBS. So by the time we got Cartoon Network, there were original shows on there too. Just a few.
It was even later for me. In Fargo, North Dakota, both Comedy Central and Cartoon Network were not part of the normal cable package. And it wasn't until maybe 98 that I was finally able to like do enough chores to convince my family to buy a separate cable box so that I could access Cartoon Network and Comedy Central and finally watch South Park and Dexter's Lab. Major moment in my life.
That's nice, man. Kids today. But like you said, Bob, this is the Gen X, the underpaid Gen X staff of Cartoon Network at the Atlanta Turner offices. They were a big part of programming those blocks. And if you were watching the bumpers on Cartoon Network back then that would promote these kind of musty old cartoons, like they were with a bit of a wink of like, the Hair Bear Bunch kind of is stupid, isn't it? But hey, we're all watching it. Like, this is fun.
It's all we got.
Yes.
Look, it's a strong point of view, and that's something that's to this day really hard to find, which is like, you're not just watching it to watch it, you're watching it to get a curatorial point of view that contextualizes everything for you. And that was like really meaningful for Cartoon Network and a lot of the great networks, you know, like MTV and Comedy Central and stuff, and Sci-Fi Channel.
And guys like Andy Merrill were programming it, and the late C. Martin Croker, like those guys, or he was even like drawing some interstitials that would, you know, connect the things that were just so amazing. Like Andy Merrill, we'll talk a ton about him, but I just love, I've heard his stories. He shares stories on social media where he talks about like having to program blocks of time on Cartoon Network, and he joking about how there was a unspoken rule of, as low as the ratings get, you don't get to have Captain Planet not air on weekdays.
See, that's what I respect. They're planting a flag. They're saying, no, we are driving the culture. We are making sure that Captain Planet is there because we want it there. That's what true programming leadership is, in my opinion.
And I think we've covered a lot of shows where we talk about the origin of the shows, and it all comes from the production companies, the promotional department of these cable companies, where it's like, well, we got these guys who make commercials. What else can they do? And then they end up making shows, and they get paid like they're making commercials. But still, the shows are nice.
Yeah, and you know, I'm sure you were about to get into this, but it's like, while in LA at the Hanna-Barbera studios, they're making the first wave of, you know, Cartoon Network originals. Simultaneously, that's when that Atlanta team is starting to do Space Ghost, which is like the evolution of that point of view.
Exactly. Yeah. As the Cartoon Network studios like begin to form out of the Hanna-Barbera and Turner Animation that got purchased, like it is kind of the thing that damages, though, the Hanna-Barbera characters, at least, or their ability to get attention, because as the shows like Dexter's Laboratory, Johnny Bravo, Powerpuff Girls start popping up, that takes up literal space on the schedule. And as the originals grow on Cartoon Network, that starts to shove space away for the reruns of Hanna-Barbera stuff from the 60s and 70s. And especially when the late night era time zone used to be when they would play like, okay, well, that's where Hair Bear Bunch is going to be. Then that becomes the Adult Swim block. And once that happens, then they have to go to Boomerang. Like that's the channel drift onto Boomerang. And of course, now Boomerang exists to make us feel old, because that's where Dexter's Lab is now.
I mean, it is true, though. Like there was a time when you no longer could stay up late enough in order to watch an episode of the Gary Coleman Show or Harlem Globetrotters cartoon. One day, that became not possible anymore. And, you know, we must mourn what we have lost.
I'm actually looking at the Boomerang schedule. I don't recognize any of these shows.
Are they a bunch of like acquisitions and imports or something?
So I mean, I could be showing my ignorance, but what is Ruby Gloom? 2006. So now that's the new benchmark for an old cartoon, I guess.
Well, all right, man.
Stumped me.
Ruby Gloom and a show called Uh-Oh. Those are your two selections on Boomerang for the next couple of days.
Interesting.
Oh.
Wow. That's cable programming for you these days.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations, because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
So yes, as Hanna-Barbera, though, the men are employed up through the end of the century, as their characters are starting to appear a little less, though. I mean, especially thanks to marketing deals, the success of like Scooby-Doo and Flintstones, those stay pretty much as well known as they were like in the 80s. Though Yogi Bear and his pals move a little further down the dial, and the Hanna passes away in 2001 at the age of 90. Barbera in 2006 at 95. They lived quite a long life. And then after they're gone, like, it is kind of ups and downs for the rest of the characters. Like, they either get repurposed for Adult Swim fun or the occasional like guest appearance and things, but Yogi Bear wasn't getting like a brand new movie anymore, like Scooby would.
And they tried with the Flintstones, but I think they were a little too early with their edgier take on those characters. With the movie On the Rocks, which aired once, never released again. You can find it online, but I feel like that might have been too much too soon for a revival.
Right, there wasn't a home for that type of thing at that time. And if they'd tried a version of that on Adult Swim, maybe it would have. And that was also around the time they were doing those haunted John Kay shorts, you know? And so it's like, they were trying stuff out for... I mean, look, all the stuff, they were trying stuff out for years and years and years for what would eventually become Adult Swim, and even all the way back to Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
And there was this, we talked about this on our Scooby-Doo episode. There was a Scooby-Doo special with David Cross in it.
Right, that barely aired. Well, and same, the Birdman episode of with Scooby-Doo too, it definitely, that and the Flintstones episode, the Sopranos Flintstones one, on the commentaries, I'll just say it definitely feels like the writers are talking around being told by other departments in Warner, hey, you can't actually have Shaggy be a pothead. He appears on underpants that were selling to kids. He can't actually smoke pot.
That's correct. And I think that's true even when we did those characters on OKKO. They're paying attention. They want to make sure that we're not pushing too far in that direction. It is funny, though, that they made that Birdman episode where the whole joke is that they're not saying it, which is a pretty clever way to do it, I think.
Also, Fred Flintstone, not really in the mob, but they can kind of make jokes about it and tiptoe around it.
Yes, yeah. He's though at the end of the episode, Barney can be in the mob. He can be the head of the mob. So yes, that's where the Hanna-Barbera characters were left with as we entered this century. And who could possibly pick them up and dust them off for a new generation? Okay, let's talk about Carl Harvey Greenblatt and his career. And listeners, yes, I know there's some very nice commenters who keep telling us, do a Chowder episode. You should do a Chowder episode. I know. I've watched like 2 episodes of Chowder ever. I'm bad. I'm not good.
Hey,
I need to watch Chowder.
Not an ad for Teletoon Plus, but they have a lot of Chowder. I threw an episode on and I was astounded by how much of that show I remembered, and it's delightful.
I watched more of Flapjack back in the day, but it was in my dormant period that really only a little later, Adventure Time and Regular Show pulled me back to checking out Cartoon Network shows. I'm at fault here, not the shows. But yes, so Carl, I'll go by Carl. I'll be as familiar as Toby is with him. Why say it first? So
I'm going to choose to call him CH.
As is your right.
So Mr. Greenblatt, he was born in 1972 in Texas and, watched all the cartoons he could, dreamed of being a cartoonist, like as in, newspaper comic strip cartoonist, and went to the University of Texas in Austin or at Austin and got into the advertising department. At the same time, he was doing the daily cartoon strip Der Bingle, the Goat Boy. Then in the first half of the 90s, he got his first job in stuff we would have seen as kids in advertising. If you remember the Chef Boyardee ad campaign, Chef Junior, he was the artist for those.
I heard that tidbit around the time a few years ago, and I looked those up, and I did remember them.
As soon as I saw them, I was like, oh yeah, I'm now imagining like the copy of Simpsons Illustrated or a Spider-Man comic that featured them on the back page. And when he was doing that, it wasn't as fulfilling working in ads as he maybe thought it was. And he says that in Animation Magazine, he sees an ad for open submissions to Nickelodeon. He submitted for a character design job, and he was working on development for something, but it just didn't come together. But as he's working with a development executive there, the guy likes his comics, and he says, you know what? We just got to finish pilot for something, and they're looking for staff, even unproven guys who've never worked in a cartoon before. So why don't I pass it over? And Greenblatt then met with Steven Hillenburg and Derek Drymond, and they offered him a position as board revisionist. And C.H. Greenblatt says, quote, I'm a lucky, lucky bastard to have gotten hired to be his first ever animation job is the original run of SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh, I thought you were going to say cat dog.
Same diff.
There's a lot of cat dog discourse on social media lately. I don't understand why.
It's very funny what will just float by on your feed. It's
Yeah.
like suddenly everybody's talking about Cat Dog. It's like, all right.
Mm-hmm.
But it is, I mean, all that lore, is true that I guess Cat Dog was the one that Nickelodeon bet on, and they had no idea that SpongeBob was going to be some great success,
Mm-hmm.
The original run of SpongeBob, there are so many classics in it, and Greenblatt was there. The kids today, and many people say is this the best episode of SpongeBob ever? Band Geeks.
Yep.
He is one of the co-storyboarders on, and also others I wanted to shout out that are some of my favorites that he boarded on and wrote were Just One Bite, the Krusty Krab training video, and Wet Painters. Those are all just great. So many funny drawings, I don't know if he was the artist on it, but in Just One Bite, you like Krabby Patties, don't you, Squidward? Like that look? My husband references that look all of the time. Anytime I have to admit that I was wrong about something, he'll say, you like Krabby Patties, don't you?
Look, those episodes are all-time, classic masterpieces. And this has been belabored by us before, but it's important to note that for people, about 10 years younger than us, those first few seasons of SpongeBob are like classic Simpsons to us, as far as just being like foundational comedy texts.
And he worked with a lot of people we've talked about before, including Horgoth of Barbaria's Aaron Springer. He worked a lot with him, and Kaz, who we've talked about it when we covered one of his SpongeBob episodes, who's still working on SpongeBob, I believe, to this day. And I did see a fun interview with Greenblatt where he was nicely talking around it, but he did say they went on a group, a staff trip to his toy store with Hillenburg. And he says that when Hillenburg saw a SpongeBob popsicle, he had a very negative response. And he was like, I didn't want this. Let's stop with the movie. But you couldn't stop. There was no stopping the machine, pretty much then.
It's strange that a popsicle was what crossed the line, but hey, it's his show.
And so, yes, Greenblatt did work a little on season 4, and actually the post-Hillenburg seasons of SpongeBob, though one of the things was one of his earliest voices where on a SpongeBob season 4 episode, they create a character named Carl, which they came up with as a goof on him when they make fun of him with the voice they use to make fun of him. And they're like, can you play this guy that's you and we're making fun of you and do the voice like how we make fun of you? So... yes, that's when his voice acting career began as well. Though he moved from Nickelodeon to Cartoon Network, started working on The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. It's also where he got his first recurring voice as Fredburger. But while working on Billy and Mandy, that's when he started development of his own series. He says he worked on it for 7 years through development before it finally aired. Does that seem like a long time for you, Toby?
I mean, I don't know. I'm next time I talk to him, I'm gonna have to ask about that, what that is, what that 7 years represents. It's were you pitching it over and over? Were you doing boards over and over? Because while we know that it's only gotten longer and longer and slower, 7 years is a very long time to develop a show for sure.
That show is Chowder, the absurdist show about a little kid who loves to cook food, and a bunch of weird stuff happens. I've totally seen it. Doesn't that sound like somebody who's watched the show?
Oh, yeah.
Though it is beloved by Gen Z. They friggin' love Chowder. And Greenblatt himself is impressed how popular it was because, as he recalls, it felt like Cartoon Network tried their hardest to make sure people didn't watch it and it wasn't seen.
Sounds familiar.
It's from it debuted in 2007, but he won't name names. I'm sure you could Google who these new network executives were at Cartoon Network at the time, but there was a big shift in 2009 that the feeling was shows like Chowder's was for babies, and they needed shows for teen boys that had violence and live action in it. Though Carl also in those interviews is very clear of like he really respects that shows like Adventure Time and Regular Show were able to survive that kind of edict, and the good stuff still came out, but Chowder basically did not get much of a chance. Its last 2 years are like random airings he couldn't even promote or know about because Cartoon Network just pulled away from it.
I mean, I remember when the finale of Chowder aired, having to catch it on some random night, and I only knew about it because I was following his like social media, and it was like a year later or something like that. So it's a classic tale of a beloved cult comedy that's kicked around the schedule and all that stuff. Yep.
Yeah, I think Flapjack was a similar show in that regard. Just not appreciated by the executives, loved by the audience, and eventually not treated very well.
Yep. And same thing. I remember watching Flapjack's final episode of Flapjack, only knowing about it because Thurop posted about it like on his DeviantArt page that it was the finale and tuning in for that. Yeah, to paint a picture.
And Greenblatt mentioned that it was just like so hard for like it sounded like he really needed to like take a little time off afterwards because it's just so frustrating. He put everything into Chowder or Chowder, and then after years of his life and millions of dollars spent by Cartoon Network that they just didn't want it promoted in any way is just so hard for him. Well, that wouldn't. It would happen again with Nickelodeon and Harvey Beaks as well. Unfortunately,
look, it's a very interesting and strangely common thing that a show will get made and then the place that is supposed to release it also wants to kill it.
Mm-hmm. Now, I hope I'm not crossing a line here, but the animation industry seems unfair.
Sometimes things can be challenging.
So Greenblatt then heads back to Nickelodeon, has his pitch, and it's a little more grounded and heartfelt show, Harvey Beaks, about a bird and his imp friends. And it gets 2 26-episode production orders, and it debuts in 2015. It even gets renewed. And then a year later, Greenblatt announces it got canceled as well, and that Nick, again, didn't seem to want to air it. He didn't know when it would air. He learned when episodes would air, when viewers would. And also it even the last chunk of episodes just got shunted over to the Nicktoons spin-off channel and not Nickelodeon. And it was, again, extremely frustrating for him and really hard. That he still wanted to make another cartoon after those two back-to-back is impressive.
Yeah, I think that it is a tale as old as time in a way, and it's beautiful that these shows did find their audiences, but it is a thing where both of those shows could have in a different world been much longer term great successes, and so the funny thing is, we talk about this a lot, where it's like the number of episodes that Chowder and Harvey Beaks got, like now you'd be like, oh my god, I got to do 40 episodes, like oh my god. So it really goes to show it's things have always been hard, and they're particularly hard these days. But look, those are two truly amazing shows. They're two of the best cartoons that have been made this century.
So after the Harvey Beaks situation, it seemed like Greenblatt, wanted to have a little more time off to think about things. And it was around like 2018, 19-ish that he said he was reached out to by his former executive in charge of production on Chowder, former Cartoon Network executive who had moved over to the Warner Brothers animation side of things. And that is Jay Bastion, who was the EP in charge of production on Jellystone as well.
Yeah, Jay, I met around the time I got started. I had a meeting with him, and he's a true lover of cartoons, and he was the main executive on Jellystone, and he also is someone who is working on the new regular show as well.
Oh, that's really cool. That's he seems like, I look at his credits, and also it's nice he's still around even after because looking at his LinkedIn, it looked like he left Cartoon Network in 2009 in that same time period that Chowder was canceled, and so that he got to stick around on the Warner Animation team and still be producing great shows like Jellystone is impressive. That's a executive tenacity there.
It's true.
And Jay gave Greenblatt the pitch of like, well, I believe they brought it to him, to Greenblatt, of let's take the Hanna-Barbera toys off of the shelf and dust them off and update them as a refresh for the kids today that could enjoy, especially like kids who have grown up on, SpongeBob or like the Mickey Mouse Paul Rudish shorts. Also, I think our pal Thad called them like Sponge Mick Bob pants or like mouse pants. Like, yeah, but that is the kind of like, that is what kids think of cartoons today, which is not so bad, I think.
And one thing that must be emphasized is because we talked a lot about Hanna-Barbera, I must reiterate the fact that Cartoon Network shows are spiritually, to this day, Hanna-Barbera shows. Like, it isn't just that Hanna-Barbera became Cartoon Network Studios. I mean, it's literally the same pipeline and the same schedule. Like Steven Universe is, the same schedule and pipeline as a classic Hanna-Barbera show. That thing was set in stone then, and we still use it like on regular show, The Lost Tapes, now.
Yeah, it was strange, but I was looking up to see who made Jellystone. What is the studio? And it's Warner Brothers, and that just took me by surprise. And I was like, there's been a lot of acquisitions, but it feels wrong that Warner Brothers is presenting the Hanna-Barbera show to me.
And it is true because it was a Warner Brothers show from before even the big merging of Cartoon Network Studios and Warner Brothers. So it was one that they had their shows. They did like Teen Titans Go and Yabba Dabba Dinosaurs and Young Justice and stuff like that. And so it was on that wing, that side.
Well, yeah, and in the teens, like that's also where like the debuting in Europe first Wacky Races show, also it lived on that side. Or maybe I'm thinking that's Cartoon Network Europe, if that's still the name of it. I'm confused on which is.
I'm pretty sure Warner Brothers did that, and of course now Cartoon Network Europe is Hanna-Barbera Studios Europe, and
right.
Cartoon Network is a brand within Warner Brothers. On regular show Lost Tapes, we are in the same. If Jellystone was still going, we'd be in the same building as Jellystone's production. I know because I bump into people who worked on Jellystone. I bumped into our producer and all those folks.
Man, that's such like you said, like the tradition of Hanna-Barbera like continues into Cartoon Network and decades after like the name of the studio stopped being Hanna-Barbera, like because the TV animation production for Warner that was like Tiny Toons into Animaniacs and all that was a totally different like group and office and everything than the Cartoon Network side of things.
As far as I know, yeah.
And so Greenblatt, he's up for it. He's interested in it. He grew up loving the Hanna-Barbera characters. So he starts working on developing it. He's even working on the development with his old boss, the grim and evil creator, Maxwell Atoms, works on it.
Yeah, it's funny. When I had my initial interview to come help out on Jellystone, he was in the Zoom meeting, the call. Side note, Jellystone, the season 2 is an entirely remote production. And I didn't know that I was in a meeting with Maxwell Atoms because he had his normal name there. And so I realized later, it's like, oh my God, that was fucking Maxwell Atoms. He was the number 2 on the season. He was really, really cool to work with.
Also working on the development was the Unikitty director Corinne Engel and former Harvey Beaks writer and storyboard artist Hanna Ayobi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hannah's really cool. I don't know Corinne, but obviously a lot of those episodes early on that Corinne and Hanna did were very foundational to the voice of the show, I think.
And also the head writer on it was co-creator of Adult Swim Super Jail, Ben Gruber. He was story editor. Fun fact, I had forgotten that he was one of the, or if I ever knew this, I forgot, but maybe I learned it for the first time. He was one of the writers on Ultra City 6060 on MTV's Cartoon Sushi.
That is 100% accurate.
which is how most of us first saw Iria. I've never had to say it out loud before. I just have read it.
Could be Iria.
Iria, yes. So as Carl laid it out, his vision from the very beginning, one of the things we first developed for the show was I kind of picked about 7 core characters that we would base the majority of the stories around. It would be Augie Doggy, Doggy Daddy, Yogi, Cindy Boo Boo, El Kabong, Jabberjaw, Huckleberry Hound, and Top Cat. And then with Augie, sometimes it'd be her and the kids, sometimes it'd be her and Daddy. That was who we would sort of focus on. And he mentioned too that it's like different sitcoms exist within the show and you visit them. Like sometimes it's a hospital sitcom with Yogi, Boo Boo, and Cindy. Sometimes it's a workplace sitcom with Jabberjaw, Loopy de Loop, and Miguel Gorilla. It can be a lot of things, the show, just in a normal episode of Jellystone.
Yeah, that's something I really appreciate creatively because, normally I don't think if you pitched a show like that where there's just like various pockets of characters throughout a world and it can be different sets of characters from episode to episode, that kind of thing would be really, really, really hard to get through. And I think because it's legacy IP characters, they're able to kind of do it. And it's very fun to, work on the show and not know what show you're really doing from episode to episode. It's a very open-ended type of thing.
And an interesting choice in the show, too, is that, like, some characters stay pretty close to what you, like, the iconic idea of them. Like, Yogi Bear sounds and acts, like, pretty close to what, old Yogi Bear would be, or 90s Yogi Bear. Same with, like, Top Cat or Snagglepuss. But then some go through a bit of a change, like Cindy Bear and Miguel Gorilla and Shag Rug. Greenblatt in interviews is very upfront of like he wanted to do this, the controversial thing that I now hate him for, the woke gender swapping. I kid. But he obviously was like, Hanna-Barbera has very few female characters, so that kind of needs to be addressed, or it's just a show full of dudes.
Well, I'm a single issue voter, and Jabberjaw must be a man. I'm turning off the television. I'm writing my congressman. Congressman, by the way.
Yeah, Carl really knows how to build like a comedic ensemble, and I think that there was a lot of effort toward being like, okay, what is a set of personalities that can bounce off of each other really well? And I think that's something you see in pretty much any episode of the show.
I would love to meet they must exist, but like there's a lot of people who make angry content on YouTube to complain about changes in cartoons.
Yeah,
I want to find the person who's like, they ruined Loopy de Loop. We all know the character Loopy de Loop, and Squiddly Diddly ruined by being a girl now.
It's funny. It's like, how do you say something like that and not just like get tired? Mm-hmm. It's just like, can you even muster up the energy to really have that as a genuine opinion? I don't know, thank God. But I'm sure that someone like that does exist.
Shag Rug had integrity before Jellystone. I'm sorry. Actually, I had to look up Shag Rug. I'm like, who is this bear guy? Then I found out he's one of the Hillbilly Bears, correct? Which is different than the Hair Bear bunch.
Yes.
But those two groups would not get along, I feel. They have different values.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole episode about their political views, yeah.
I remember early in the show, too, like the Hillbilly Bears then go to, like, in Jellystone, they go to a Chuck E. Cheese-style place, and that's where another group of bear Hanna-Barbera characters are just the Chuck E. Cheese style animatronics.
Well, I think that's the Banana Splits in that episode, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
And look, it's not a 6 to 11 centric 11-minute animated cartoon if there isn't a Chuck E. Cheese episode. Every single show has one.
And so this is where, Greenblatt even said, we keep saying, what are the weirdest corners of Hanna-Barbera universe that we can unearth and put into the show? Because there are so many interesting things to keep discovering. That's how you end up with characters that I have to like Google to look up, like Flirtatia from The Adventures of Gulliver, or Glump from Valley of the Dinosaurs, or Weirdly Gruesome from The Gruesomes, the would-be Addams Family spinoff to the Flintstones.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I think that when we're working on the show, we're always trying to kind of like one-up each other with whatever kinds of weird cameos that we could put in. And look, I like it. It makes it fun to, and as I said, this is something I didn't know that much of coming into it. And by the time I was done, I had the Hanna-Barbera wiki memorized.
Now let's talk the cast. It's a very dense cast. I'll just mention, I'll mention some other folks when we get to the SpaceCon chat, but of the major folks in it, I want to mention Jeff Bergman, who is many characters, but his main ones I would say are Yogi Bear, Wally Gator, and Mr. Jinx. He is a huge cartoon vet. He is official Bugs Bunny in a lot of things. He's official Fred Flintstone, Sylvester Elmer Fudd, even official Yogi in many Yogi things. So I think that's something that I think really like grounds the show of that. When you meet Yogi in the first episode, you're like, oh, this Yogi is Yogi. Like, this is the Yogi Bear. Meanwhile, there's Jim Conroy, who is, what a duality of man he can play. He is Huckleberry Hound and Captain Caveman. That's extremes asked of a voice actor. Then there's Grace Helbig as Cindy Bear, who she definitely went through a bit of a change from old Cindy Bear for however much of a character old Cindy Bear was, I have to say. She wasn't that deep of a character.
Yeah, now she's like a super type A scientist lady who's incredibly funny. There's like a book club episode about her that's one of my favorites, where she's very insane.
You know, now that I've been exposed to Huckleberry Hound again, got me thinking, Cleveland from Family Guy, possibly inspired by Huckleberry Hound. We have to investigate.
I think there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's, hey, we were talking about our love for Adult Swim. This kept steady paychecks coming to our favorite guy, Dana Snyder, Master Shake himself. He is like a bunch of like he was born to be Snagglepuss.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing
It's
him here,
true.
like, how did it take this long for Dana Snyder to be Snagglepuss?
Yeah, just hearing his voice and everything, I'm just glad he found his path to becoming a voice actor. I don't know what else he could have done. How could you encounter a guy like Dana Snyder in the world, like working at a Starbucks with that voice?
Yeah, he is so funny. And like I remember because he played Dr. Grayman on OKKO. And if I remember correctly, what happened was we had him doing himself, and then Ian saw him do a performance where he played a character with a German accent. And so we had Dr. Grayman, after the time skip, suddenly take on a German accent just because he was so funny doing it.
Which he also brings a similar German accent to the character of Tube in the show as well.
Yes, Tube was definitely the crew favorite character during season 2. Tube Mania was already in play when I joined the show, and I just rode that wave.
And C.H. Greenblatt himself does a lot of voices on the show. He's Peter Potamus, he's Boo Boo, he's Doggy Daddy, he's Benny, and he's really funny in the characters. I also want to mention some big names in the show as recurring. My favorite is Paul F. Tompkins as McGill Gorilla. Like it's perfect casting, as Paul F. Tompkins has such a debonair voice and sounds like he can play a clothes horse, like fashion mogul type guy, like McGill Gorilla is in this version of it.
And I must say that of the different pockets of characters on the show, the McGill Gorilla pocket is actually my personal favorite. And so I was very excited that my last episode, the Thundar one, was one about that set of characters.
Then there's Tom Lennon as Top Cat. He's so great there too. And Flula Borg is the Great Gazoo. That's awesome casting. And Leslie Nicole from Downton Abbey is Winsome Witch, one of the few female characters from classic Hanna-Barbera who was just the star of her own thing. And then only because I'm watching so much of Star Trek now, when I wrote this down, I was like, and they got Barclay, but Dwight Schultz, who does a ton of things. He's very little of his career is Barclay. He's Murdoch on A-Team, but to me, he's Barclay from Star Trek The Next Generation.
Well, I believe he's also one of the main characters on Chowder, if I remember correctly.
Yes, he's Chef Mung Dahl on Chowder. Yes.
And so I went the other way because I watched Chowder a bunch, and then I only got into Star Trek in the last 5 years. So it was like, oh my God, that's Mung Dahl when Barclay shows up.
And in your episode, Connor Ratliff, superstar podcaster Connor Ratliff, is Thundar the Barbarian, and a very sassy Thundar.
Yes, and when I was working on that episode, that was something that Carl wanted from the get-go. He's like, I definitely want Connor Ratliff to play Thundar. And it's like, I'm a fan. I love the Dead Eyes podcast, and I've seen his documentary. So that was a lot of fun to hear.
Bob and I keep banging this drum, hire podcasters to be voice actors in your cartoons.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you there.
We all have crazy voices and are hilarious.
And same composer on the show is Harvey Beaks, and that's Ego Plum, who got his start in the punk scene and has done a lot of orchestral arrangements. And this has Harvey Beaks did have a full orchestral score. That's not in the budget for things these days. I mean, it was rare on Harvey Beaks even back then, but he does so great with this. He worked on Star versus the Forces of Evil. He's even done drumming for folks like Black Francis from the Pixies.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's crazy. Yeah, I think Carl really likes working with Ego Plum. I think Harvey Beaks in particular, it has a very unique, kind of atmospheric, bittersweet sounding score that really lends to the tone of that show.
And he also, most recent credits other than Jellystone were the Cuphead show, and he is also working on the Patrick Star show. Busy guy. So the show, Jellystone, they start working on it. It is officially announced in October of 2019 as part of a list of many big projects that are going to be coming to HBO Max as part of the rollout of HBO Max. The only image that's shown is one that, again, in another interview I saw with Greenblatt, he's like, that was for internal use only. It was my drawing of just all the characters. And the PR team picked that as the one that goes out in the press release. So what everybody thinks, I guess this is what Jellystone looks like, which is just a personal drawing, but not personal, but an internal drawing that's only Greenblatt.
Yeah, again, it's funny that we thought this was a new show, and it predates HBO Max, which has been with us for so long, and so many name changes have happened since then. I never stopped calling it HBO Max.
And that served you well.
And so, yes, it debuts as an HBO Max original, soon to be called a Max original, on July 29th in 2021. And it also would have episodes airing on Cartoon Network as well the following fall and internationally. And I'm going by the HBO Max naming of them, but the first 11 episodes are 22 minutes each. So really it's 22 11-minute segments, and then season 2 is 19 11-minute episodes, except then there's the double length ones that are in the later. There's no double length in season 2 as HBO Max calls it. And then season 3, production wise to you, Toby, is season 2, right?
Something like that. Yeah, it got broken up strangely, as they often are. But I believe that production-wise, we're talking about 2 40-episode seasons. And they also shuffled them around a little bit. For example, the big Cartoon Network crossover episode, I believe, was actually the final one that was produced. But they moved it up so that it could be the first one when they brought the show back for the final batch.
No, I did want to mention that, especially in a big part in season 3. There were event-like episodes, the Jetsons episode felt like a huge event too. It's a double-length one of, they're getting the Jetsons and there's a time portal. But then the 22-minute Crisis on Infinite Mirths feels like it should be a 44-minute thing. It's the what a cartoon characters meeting and battling the Jellystone people. And what's so amazing in it is, and this is true for so much of the series, pretty much if there is a living voice actor who had done a character for those classic ones, and that's in this episode too of SpaceCon, they get the voice actors to do it. It's so many of the voices are voice actors who played, Bubbles, Buttercup, and Blossom's voice actors are all brought back together again for that special, for instance.
Yeah, and Carl and Maxwell Adams got to bring back a lot of characters from shows that they've worked on. And watching that thing come together was really cool. I did not work on it. That was boarded by Dodge Greenlee, who, of course, has a connection there because he did Pibby. But I know Carl and Maxwell Adams put a ton of love into it. It was very much like a major project that they worked on, kind of all season long. Did I beg for KO to be included? Did I beg on my hands and knees? It doesn't matter because there was a cap on how recent the shows could be, because the whole point of the show is that it's kind of legacy stuff, and so it isn't relevant whether or not I begged because it wouldn't have been possible for KO to appear. And one thing I'll quickly mention about that episode is, the only time I ever got to meet everybody in person was for the wrap party, because as I mentioned, it was a remote project that I mostly worked on from my childhood basement in Fargo, North Dakota, while shooting AJ Goes to the Dog Park. But there was a wrap party, and they screened the final version of that episode. And when I saw that final moment, that ending, I was like, holy shit, I can't believe they're doing this. And they did it, and it released that way. Just that joke about the fate of Cartoon Network. It's such a gut punch of a final joke.
Yes. If it had been the last aired episode, it probably would have hurt even more as a joke, perhaps, as a viewer. Though, yes, the episodes those dropped in just big chunks in February of 2024 and March 2025. And I'll give Greenblatt credit. When those early 2025 drops, he was still doing a bunch of interviews to promote it. He was not treating it as on to the next thing, on to my development deal at Disney or whatever. He was working hard to promote it. And though in a March 2025 interview, he admitted it's the final batch of episodes for now, but who knows? And hey, who knows, right, Toby? Who knows?
Hey, if I got the call to do more Jellystone, I would be happy to do it. Very fun show to work on. Anything that's it's a gag a minute type of show. It's so up my alley. I would happily come back to do more Jellystone if such a thing were physically possible.
But so that's the history of all the stuff that brought us up to Jellystone, and it's brief but sparkling time as a Max original that we all love on the app Max that is now HBO Max once more.
My favorite thing about working on that project is just getting to say that I worked on a Max original. Like that's kind of like the big, that to me is like is the biggest point of pride there.
There are only 8 months where that was possible, right?
Exactly.
Top of the resume then. So yes, that's the history of Jellystone. Why don't we take a break and we'll talk about the episode that Toby wrote and boarded on SpaceCon.
Okay, let me tell you about a bear. His name's Yogi. He just polished off a plate of beef bulgogi. Sometimes he is fast and sometimes he's sloggy. Someone hand that bear a mic so he can karaoke.
Oh, I couldn't. Yeah, listen to a legend about a bear named Yogi.
Hold up you, cause he ain't no phony.
He's not that grody.
Ain't no phony.
Like this apple pie, I don't know.
From New Bedrock to Oklahoma's Muskogee.
Everybody's saying that Yogi's an OG.
Just like me, Yogi is a board certified MD.
How many hot dogs can he fit into his mouth? 33! Yogi Bear is smarter than the average bear. The Yogi Bear Show.
There is a place, a magical place, a place where nothing strange ever happens. Okay, well, it's still a place.
I'm so glad you guys wanted to hang out. I'm so excited.
Welcome to Jellystone, a town chock full of characters trying to live.
I've learned the ways of the grocery store, and I am now more powerful than you could ever imagine.
Work.
We're doctors, and we're about to do doctor-type things. Aha.
And play together. Join Yogi.
Suit up!
Cindy.
I'm administering a sedative.
And Boo Boo.
I'm being sued for malpractice.
In the new series
Howdy there.
Also Huckleberry Hound. In the new series
I'm Jabberjaw.
And also Jabberjaw. In the new series
Hey!
And Topcat. And Snagglepuss. Elkabong. Wally Gator. Augie Doggy. Doggy Daddy. The Banana Splits.
Cool.
Johnny Quest. Haji. Shagrug. Captain Caveman. And... Man, there's a lot. In the new series Jellystone. Streaming July 29th on HBO Max.
According to my calculations, this should be fun.
Okay, we are back, and listeners got to hear the, I would say, very kazoo-focused opening theme of Jellystone. I love that opening theme, and with all of them marching, I realized only on this time, I was like, oh, this is like the Huckleberry Hound, like, march at the start of his show. Like, it's just like it.
Yep, and it's planting a flag as being a kazoo-driven intro. Can you name 5 other kazoo-driven TV intros?
I can only name one, and I think it's Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. It's very kazoo forward, but that could be the only other one that comes to mind. And it's part of the family, too.
And story by credit for this one is Jordan Morris, which I knew I was going to love the Space Ghost episode. The second I saw the image for it, I was like, oh, there's a Space Ghost episode in this. I know I'm going to love this. But like when the credits are appearing on screen together are 2 Talking Simpsons podcast guests, Jordan Morris and Toby Jones.
Yeah, that was the writer's room, I think, was dispersed by the time that I jumped on the show. But I certainly recognized his name from there, and I was really excited. It was a very, very funny outline. I only met him much later. You know, I bumped into him at the rap party and at the and once or twice at Warner Brothers, and I was like, "Hey, I did that episode," and it was a faded meeting. Hands were shaken.
I asked Jordan a little bit for his, the pitching process or where this came from. And he gave me a nice little quote here. So thank you, Jordan, that he, after explaining how, the show is more board driven. And so he He just came in for, pitching, but he also says that he said the great stuff you loved from that episode probably came from Toby, Greenblatt, and the rest of the art team. He said, when we were pitching premises to Carl, I started with the story about Jellystone hosting a pop culture convention, a legally dissimilar Comic-Con. I thought it would be fun to see the cast dressed up as other Warner Brothers and Cartoon Network characters and to spoof the weirder parts of con culture. Carl Greenblatt wanted it to specifically be a space/sci-fi con so we could highlight the Space Ghost characters. When I pitched the idea, I had no idea that they were already talking to the Space Ghost cast members about guesting, so I think when I pitched this premise, it seemed like a good venue to use them. Obviously, I'm a huge Space Ghost Coast to Coast and Cartoon Planet fan. It was so fun to hear George and Andy do those characters again. They are truly two of the funniest voice actors of all time. I'm so happy with how this episode turned out. Really thrilled to have been a small-ish part of it.
It's beautiful to hear. And yeah, look, I didn't know that background of the episode. I didn't know that it came from a convention type pitch. So that's it's kind of it's a perfect thing to combine those two ideas.
And folks, you know that Jordan Morris has some really great comics coming out right now. Not just his original graphic novel with artist Bowen McCurdy, Youth Group, but also Predator Bloodshed and Web of Venom that just debuted. And it was like the number 2 best-selling book of its week.
You get to write on a Venom book?
It's, yes, a new. He came up with a new Venom. The Web of Venom stars a new Venom who changes his costume to a symbiote suit, looks like the Spider-Man red and blue.
Look, I'm jealous. Getting to do symbiote-related material is still on my bucket list, so I'm jealous.
No, I mean, we've had multiple guests on where I was like, "Wow, you've written words for Peter Parker." Like, I've learned to not be jealous anymore because I'm not a comic book writer, but a child me inside is still jealous.
And I just heard you and him on a recent Doughboys episode that was a particularly funny installment.
Oh,
you can send Jordan the word "the" and he can cram it into a Spider-Man comic and say, "That's my the" that Peter Parker's saying.
As long as Peter Parker said it, or yes, no, Web of Venom. It's such a hit. I had to buy it digitally because my local comic shop, it was sold out on New Comic Book Day. Like, he's got a hit on his hands there with Web of Venom. And yes, so Jordan pitched the idea, wrote the outline for it, and then you got the outline, Toby, and then continued writing it as part of the boards, and you shared your boards with us from back in early 2022 that they're dated, and they really rule. I don't want to write. I was like, I can't write down every joke that's in this that didn't make the episode, but there's a few that I was like, damn, that's funny. Like,
thank you. Yeah, I felt as a listener of Talking Simpsons, I know you like looking at how the process iterates. So I thought you'd enjoy having a look at those boards. And it's a board-driven show, of course. And the thing about it is that it's solo boards, but on a pretty tight schedule. And so there was a very loose storyboard that you got to see of like an earlier version, stuffed to the gills with Tobyisms and stuff like that. And there's still plenty of that left in the final episode. But as I'm sure we'll get into, a lot of room was made for Andy Merrill's improvisation as Brack. And I will say, getting onboarded on a show that I've never worked on before and finding out that the first episode was a Space Ghost episode, I felt a tremendous amount of pressure and pleasure because I'm such a fan of Space Ghost Coast to Coast. That is one of the greatest comedy shows ever made. It kind of changed the world. And so I was really, really excited. At first, I didn't know that they were actually planning on bringing back Andy Merrill and George Lowe. I kind of thought, based on the story outline, with Brack being a villain and everything like that, and bringing back the sidekicks of Space Ghost, I was like, oh, it's more like the classic Hanna-Barbera show. But when they told me that they were going to bring in George Lowe and Andy Merrill, it was kind of like off to the races. It's like, we have to try to come up with stuff that feels in some way like it can be in the voice of both versions of the show.
It'd be strange if it was original Brack. I think everyone would be upset. Nobody wants original Brack. I don't like hearing original Brack's voice. I'm thinking like, no, this is wrong.
Yeah, for multiple reasons.
Yeah, it should be like a gentle Southern goofball.
Yep.
Even original Zorak, like Space Ghost, like that's he's so flat in the 60s cartoons. That's
yeah. And it's interesting because, of course, obviously we lost C. Martin Croker tragically, and so we couldn't get him to do the voice. And the voice in this episode is really interesting because it's kind of a fusion between the Coast to Coast version and the original Hanna-Barbera version.
And as you said, the director, Ron Stanage, he's a relatively new pro. Like it seemed that his earliest credit I could find was his Nick short, Tennis the Good Boy from 2017. Other than his that short, this was his first directing credit I could see on IMDb. And lately he has been boarded on Strip Law, the new Netflix series, and the most recent seasons of Big City Greens.
Correct, and he also worked on Stugo. And so on a show like Jellystone, the director is very much like the shepherd of the episode. And so I would be coming to him pretty often and pitching him stuff and showing him my work in progress boards, and he'd be plussing them and helping out. And another thing is, like, he can help out with sequences. He's like, hey, you want me to help out and like draw something? So for example, I sent him the roughs of a scene we're going to talk about later where the characters, where Brack and Zorak and Moltar first enter, and he was able to do a more fleshed out pass on that. He was really, really great to work with and incredibly supportive of all of my stupid ideas. And I love working with Ron, and he helped out a lot. A lot of cool stuff got added as well later on in the process. That was all him.
And the show's version of a couch gag is a handful of characters. I think it's like 7 or 8 different ones. It's not like a different one every episode, but fittingly, it's this one is Space Ghost crashing the Phantom Cruiser to cause the destruction of the town.
Yes, and it's my understanding that a lot of those intros are stuff that the revisionists work on. And that's something I should also mention, because it's a pretty quick turnaround with solo boards that you got to hand them in kind of rough. Ron, as the director, and the team of revisionists do a lot of work getting the thing production ready. And I don't remember which revisionist did that particular intro, but I think it might have been Molly Flood or Chris McCord picking up the special intro for the episode.
And we're all big Space Ghost Coast to Coast fans here, so I mean this was also why I wanted this one to be the Jellystone we did. We even talking about looking back in our archives. 2018 was when we did our Space Ghost Coast to Coast episode of What a Cartoon.
Year one of What a Cartoon.
Wow. Wait, which Space Ghost episode did you guys cover?
Oh, that was Henry's. Sorry, Henry.
Yes, it was $20.01.
Classic.
I picked it because it's a double-length classic. It's the 2001 parody with Hal, and also is one of a handful that had DVD commentaries on the old DVDs. So I was like, well, then I know we'll get info from it there, too.
Yeah, it's great.
And yeah, I mean, it's like you said, Toby, foundational to like the medium of cartoon comedy. Like Adult Swim exists because Space Ghost Coast to Coast happened. And Adult Swim to today is still being a highly influential network, basically. And that's thanks to Space Ghost Coast to Coast existing.
I mean, putting Space Ghost Coast to Coast on Cartoon Network to an unsuspecting generation of children, it changed us. Seeing something like that on television, it is brain chemistry altering.
You didn't know a show could do that until you saw, like, you didn't know that Space Ghost could just stare at an ant for an entire episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's so educational to watch even now, where it's like a really funny joke is funny, but also sometimes the absence of a joke or the inversion of the concept of a joke is also just as funny.
Or sometimes just hearing George Lowe complaining about like an acting job. Or So yes, by the way, in Toby's boards, unfortunately couldn't make the show, but you did a title card version of like the Space Ghost title card with Peter Potamus in the spot there.
Yes, I did. And again, even though we were referencing the coast to coast versions of the characters a lot, I took the time to watch a bunch of classic Space Ghost and make sure that I was also threading in homages and references to those versions of the characters as well. I forget the name of it, but there's like an internal website where if you're working at Warner Brothers, you can access files of a lot of the old shows. And so that's how I was digging up those episodes and just making sure that I had them front of mind. And so that was how I remembered, like, oh, that's what the classic title card looked like. And board artists love to do fun little title cards for their boards. Yeah.
I think I did watch some Space Ghost, regular classic Space Ghost, before Coast to Coast started airing. It's such the Alex Toth designs are so striking and memorable. Like that's another reason Coast to Coast is so cool. Like that a freeze frame of an Alex Toth drawing of or that character model is just so striking that it can barely move and it holds your attention.
Yes, a lot of those classic Hanna-Barbera action shows putting action kind of in quotes, are carried really heavily by those gorgeous designs. They all have amazing designs.
Well, I think when we covered one of Batman the Animated Series episodes, we realized like when you cover up the bat ears on Batman, from the neck up, he is Space Ghost.
I think Space Ghost was one of those characters like Peter Potamus that I didn't know was an original character for a while.
I mean, also this Peter Potamus, if you grew up on just Harvey Birdman, this Peter Potamus is very different from that Peter Potamus as well.
Yes. Although I still quote the Harvey Birdman version. I think that it's, I think it's brilliant to have Peter Potamus be what is in Western media like a relatively new archetype of this particular type of nerd. And I think it was very, it's the correct choice for Carl to do the voice. I think that he, it's just like, I'm going to make sure that I'm representing this particular perspective within my show,
So in our first clip here, we have Snagglepuss welcoming us to the Space Con.
It's the 10th biannual Jellystone Sci-Fi Fish Fry Convention, where nerds from all over town share their love for outer space, superheroes, and dinosaurs even. Everyone's here to meet Space Ghost, the universe's #1 invisible hunk, and some teenagers he hangs out with, plus a monkey.
Oh, why? Oh, this is the worst thing that could have possibly happened to me!
Peter, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, man. I think your costume looks sharp.
How am I supposed to meet my ultimate hero, Space Ghost, showing up looking like a goofus without any power bands on my costume?
Peter, it's gonna be fine. We'll go find you some armbands.
Power bands?
All right, power bands. Oh, calm down.
I'm just gonna go crash a ship right now.
Well, I have to ask Toby. I'm curious about your contributions, Toby. Is the fish fry element of this con, does that come from your Midwestern roots?
No, the fish fry thing does come from the outline.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact story there, but I think it's possible that the reason why a fish fry is part of the convention is because legal wouldn't allow any other version that talks about comics or space or conventions. Warner Bros. Legal is very, very careful. And so my estimation is they kept on pitching them different versions that were getting rejected. And so they added a fish fry to it in order to make sure that it got through. I could be wrong. Jordan could confirm or deny that. But that was kind of my impression upon seeing the fish fry included.
I see. Making it legally distinct.
Exactly. Yeah. There is no fish fry Space Con. So that's how it works.
There's many a comedian for decades would talk about the queer characterization of some of, or that you could see in most of the classic Hanna-Barbera characters, but Snagglepuss especially. I just love that he gets to say invisible hunk in this episode, and later says he wants to kiss Space Ghost. Like, you guys were having some fun there, and I liked that.
Yeah, and there were no issues there. You want to kiss him, I want to kiss him. There was no sweat whatsoever, with that. That is Snagglepuss. That's the character,
Well, and I like Snagglepuss is like the gay. He is the gay. I mean, who's a gayer Hanna-Barbera character?
Mildew Wolf.
Ah, man,
Mildew's up there.
Yeah,
that's why they so perfectly partner together on Laugh Olympics, right?
Yeah. Although Mildew might be pan.
Mildew Wolf's actual. I was going to say later, but his actual Wikipedia page cites that he's bisexual based on jokes in this episode or in the Jellystone. Because there's one episode where he flirts with Shazam, and then another episode where he tries to get a date with Jabberjaw. So that's
there you go.
There you go.
This first section is a lot of fun, and it's also one thing that happens when you're writing and boarding on any cartoon is it's really, really, really easy to overload the Act 1 and not get to business. So my original version of that scene of Peter Potamus talking to the kids was probably 5 times as long, just because I was so excited to get in there and throw a bunch of jokes in. And of course, it's like, we got to get the story moving. So it got trimmed down to be as efficient as is necessary.
I did really like, though, the joke that to fake the power bands, he had cheese slices on his forearms that then are eaten by Pixie and Dixie.
Yep, and that was a gag that was in Jordan's outline that I tried to put in as accurately as possible.
I wondered what led Potamus to becoming the weeb of the show, or just the general mega nerd of the show. I found a Greenblatt quote from 2025 about this. He said, I would say that grew kind of organically. The very first kernel of him on the show was, okay, he's like the UPS guy. He shows up in his balloon and delivers packages. Then as we started to use him, at one point, the anime pillow came up. I think from there, we're like, oh, we get it. We know who he is. The crew is we're all weebs. We get it. So I think with Peter, it just happened organically that once the little crack appeared, everyone just kind of went for it and put themselves into it.
Okay. So it wasn't just me. To me, this felt more like an anime convention and him more of an anime fan, because I've been to many anime conventions in my life. And Peter Potamus is a kind of fan. He is the guy who actually will wear the free hugs sign.
Yeah.
And then
that's
someone will ask him to
my-
take it off, please, sir. Sorry, Toby.
Oh, no, that's completely my own reference
Oh,
point
okay.
for conventions. And so that's entirely what I was basing everything off of, was the world of anime conventions. And yeah, we are, I think so many people in the world of animation are weebs. And I think that if you're looking for perhaps the single strongest episode in that direction, I would say to check out Collection Protection, which is all about Peter Potamus's anime figurines. And that one, I think, was an outline and a board by Tyler Hendricks, and it's like one of the funniest episodes. So
Excellent. Well, I appreciate this as someone who has been glomped and survived to tell the tale.
Oh my God! I put a free hugs joke in the episode, but I didn't put a damn glomping joke in there. That is an opportunity missed.
Ask your parents about glomping, everyone.
Is that similar to the Yowie paddle, or is that different?
Henry.
Completely different.
A glomp is more of someone running up to you and hugging you without your consent.
Yes.
And we did it all the
In
time in the
anime-
early 2000s. Sorry, Toby.
Yeah, that's exactly accurate. In anime, if someone gives you a flying hug, that's a glomp, which people will try to do in real life.
By the way, Henry is the human Peter Potamus. I am shocked to this day. Never set foot in an anime convention. I don't understand how.
No way.
Never.
Well, as in a dedicated only for anime convention, no, I have never been to. It's true. Because basically by going to regular Comic Cons, which I've been to quite a lot of, like, anime just by 1998 was already starting to filter in there so much that my anime needs were fulfilled. But also, I'm a comic nerd who then got into anime and became a weeb. But mentally, I'm always a comic nerd first before anime guy.
I said, let's get rid of those boundaries. We got to get Henry to an anime convention.
Unfortunately, Sakura-Con was just recently here, and I missed out on it again. Next year, I say that every year.
Next year, you got to go.
Bob, thank you for saying I am the human Peter Potamus. My husband agrees.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Okay, I wasn't sure if
going-
you'd be offended by that, but I've got someone else voting on this with me.
No, it's honestly, yes. I had written in my things like, how did you guys make me the character and steal my life? But no, like my husband, when we watched the show together, when Peter would do things that I would do, he would like just kind of turn to me or just be like that happened. Also, as I continue my Duolingo Japanese adventures, if I tell him something about a new word I learned, the game becomes, he goes like, well, you have to say it like how Peter Potamus says sugoi and other Japanese words. You have to put on the Peter Potamus voice like, did you know that Megane means glasses? And that's what the Urusei Yatsura character's name is.
Yeah, this is the thing with a character like Peter Potamus. For me, it's only interesting to do a character like that if it's an affectionate and truthful version that is honest about my own similarity to the character, you know. And an episode like this is particularly fun because, you know, he gets to have a win, you know. He's not just a punchline. And to me, I don't know, it's fun to do it like that.
Also, my husband really loved that Collector Protector episode because it's secretly a Yu-Gi-Oh episode, and Sungwon Cho is in it playing a Little Rock. And like my husband and I cite it from time to time, but just like, well, no, see, a real collector has three, like the one to take out of the box, one to keep in the box, and then a third is a backup. Like that's what you. Now we don't go that far, guys, mostly, but I
couldn't afford to.
But yes, I am human Peter Pot. If you saw Peter Potamus's apartment in that episode too, like maybe a little like mine, perhaps.
Henry, you should not deny the fact that you are an anime fan. We need to get you within those doors.
I'm not even ashamed. It's just like, honestly, I don't go to cons anymore either. I think it was professionally covering cons made it like a different thing to me now. And it's hard to go back to being a civilian at them, I think, a little bit.
I'm assuming you both went to E3, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a different thing entirely because my anime convention is so different than my covering things in the press experience, where an anime convention, I said that very strangely, anime convention, you are 19 and you go with 12 other people and you're all in one room with one bed.
Yep.
And that is, there's 3 days of that.
In Florida, there weren't as many either. Like MegaCon was the biggest con in Florida in Orlando, and it was just a Comic Con too. So I think that was part of it.
Look, growing up in Fargo, I could only dream of a big anime convention to go to, and only when I left the city was I able to finally start attending these anime conventions, of which I went to maybe 3.
Okay. Next year, I said this to our editor Momika, who came to town for it.
Yes.
Next year, SakuraCon, I'm going.
We should point out that Henry let a SakuraCon guest come to him.
Yes. Yeah.
You could have gone out there, attended the convention, had a nice meal of some sort of sushi, let's say.
Yes. But,
everyone knows winter is the real mess maker. You don't need WeatherTech floor liners for summer, unless you hit the beach and half the beach ends up back in your car, or the campsite dirt ends up in your trunk. Then you'd want a cargo liner. Or a road trip goes sideways, lemonade spills, ketchup goes rogue, ice cream drips. Yeah, you'd be pretty happy about those WeatherTech seat protectors. So just to be clear as the mud you're inevitably going to step in this summer, you don't need WeatherTech. Unless you plan on doing summer. Visit WeatherTech.com today.
No, I gladly accept being Peter Potamus. Like, same too with his emotional mood swings in this. Like, I can go. Sometimes I go through that as well. It's been known to happen. I do really like that Peter's like friendship or I don't want to say mentorship because they're more mature than him usually, but the stuff with the kids is a funny dynamic. Him with the kid trio. I mean, Toby, this might be before you came on, but like, is the kid trio of, Shag Rug, Yacky Doodle, and Augie Doggy, like, are they seen as the like character for kids viewing to glom onto? Like, are they like the perspective characters for them?
I mean, I suppose they would be, but I don't know. I can't say for sure if there was a specific edict to like make sure that there was like an extra young set of characters as well involved. So yeah, I can't say for sure. Obviously, there are a good number of episodes about those 3, but also there are a good number of episodes about the adult characters, so perhaps it's just in the interest of balance. But that said, I think that they probably wouldn't have wanted to do the show if there were no, kid point of view characters at all. So that's the best I can guess on that.
Peter is their leader.
And the people playing the kids are all very great voice actors. I was saving them for this part. Yacky, another gender-swapped character, is no longer doing a Donald Duck impersonation. Instead, just a cute kid voiced by singer and performer Katie Grober. Their top credit I saw on their IMDb was that I believe they originated the role of Lulu in Waitress on Broadway, which, Bob, you've seen Waitress.
Yes, have never seen the original movie. It's a delightful little romp, and they pipe pie smells into the audience.
Is that true?
They do, yeah. It's part of the production.
I guess I have to go see Waitress.
And then Augie Doggy, also now a girl. Like of the updated characterizations, Augie Doggy and Doggy Daddy, I think is among my favorites. Like they are just so. He is a indefatigable girl dad who loves his daughter so much and will do anything. And meanwhile, Augie is incredibly like pure innocence and cuteness.
Again, I love hearing these old impressions. Jimmy Durante, he's back for the 2020s.
Look, doing these pitches, it's a lot of fun. You got to put on the voices, You're doing a voice of someone doing a voice of someone doing a voice. Doggy Daddy, very easy and fun character to write for.
And Augie Doggy is voiced by Georgie Kidder, who has some big credits recently, did a lot of episodes of Baby Shark's Big Show and Loud House. As well, some of her earlier credits are she was in the Channel 101 Dan Harmon, Rob Schrab crew. She was on Acceptable TV and the Sarah Silverman program.
I didn't know that.
And lastly, there's the very funny comedian Ron Funches. He is Shag Rug. He's done a number of voices lately. He's got a great voice, and he was on OKKO as a voice actor too, right?
Indeed. Yeah, we're big fans of him, and yeah, we were very happy to find a spot for him as the fan favorite character Sparko on OKKO, so I was excited to work with him again on this. And I say work with, I mean write dialogue for.
No, he's so funny as Shag Rug. Like he's not the first voice actor I think many would imagine for the voice of like the youngest hillbilly bear.
Yeah.
But he's so perfect, and like it's been interesting this year. Ron Funches has like broken containment from his comedy nerd fans like me because he was on the show Traitors. And
really?
Yes, and he
that.
had not a very good time being on Traitors. He said it was, and the Traitors audience didn't like him that much either. It sounded like, based on it, though he got a lot of funny jokes out of it.
That's good. Yeah, I've always been a fan of him. I like his podcast, Getting Better. And so I'm always up for Ron Funches related material.
You know, I'm glad he's getting more exposure, but I cannot endorse any show that promotes Mafia or Werewolf. The worst game ever. It sucks.
Is that true? Do you have an issue with bluffing centric games?
I don't like games that involve lying because I'm terrible at it. And like this game will give you the most anxiety ever until it's over. Have fun.
Yeah, I'm totally opposite of you. I love a lying centric game, and not because I'm good at it, but because it's fun to play.
Okay, I guess I just like more of a objective than deception.
Did you play a lot of Among Us?
No, I avoided that like the play. I just cannot get down with that. I don't know. Maybe I think I went to too much Catholic school, perhaps. And I feel Christ's hand on my shoulder as I'm trying to lie.
I also am not good at the lying games. I have not enjoyed them. I was at a party like a few years ago with mainly my husband's coworkers, and that made it like 10 times more uncomfortable playing the lying game because I only knew like half the names of people at it.
That's a difficult situation to be playing one of those with people who are not like your close friends. Yeah.
After 3 rounds, I was like, I think I had too much to drink. You stay. I'm gonna head home, and I couldn't take it anymore.
Not to linger on this too long, but I think my issue was the few times I played it, it was with an entirely new group of people.
Yeah.
Yes. Maybe we do need to. Toby, you can host it with people like our closest friends, and maybe then we can finally go.
I only feel comfortable throwing an accusation at someone if I know them pretty well. Otherwise, the dynamics of the game I think are probably pretty uncomfortable.
Also, in your boards, Toby, you have a very funny joke about the reason Peter doesn't have his power bands is because he got into an argument with the seller over subs versus dubs.
Yeah, there's a whole thing about ordering stuff, and he gets like IP banned from the seller because of his arguing. And it was a really long spiel that had to be cut for time. There's a lot of overwritten dialogue in this episode that did not make the cut, unfortunately.
One of the lines you had, like, then I realized it's not the early 2000s anymore. There's no need to fight when Blu-rays and streaming services have both. See, again, that's why I've also, on Steven Universe, I love so many characters, and I'm like, I see myself in so many of those characters. But as soon as Ronaldo on the show argued about subs versus dubs, I was like, man, I guess I'm Ronaldo if I'm anybody in this show.
Yeah, I am too. It is funny. I feel like all these characters are really, in a lot of ways, Ronin Dojo really got this early, these types of archetypes along with Eltingville. And it's fun to see these continue on.
Or the Casey Green's anime club.
Yep,
right?
yep. Mm-hmm. Coming soon in animated form, I've heard.
Yeah, I think he's announced it.
What, he's working on it at Titmouse, right? That was the announcement. Best of luck, Casey. So, yes, Peter's basically as suicidal as he can get in this cartoon. That he's going to... And that is his, like, flying... Like, they didn't just make that up. That is his... I guess it's... The wiki calls it a gondola shaped like a boat that also it can time travel. Like that. That's Hanna-Barbera. Just like the show debuted in '64, and they're like, okay, it's a flying gondola that can like travel anywhere. He also needs a time travel button just in case we run out of ideas of places he could go.
The more stories button. Here it is. Now, I do appreciate some of the darker jokes in this show. Teletoon does tell me I have to be 8 years or older to watch it, and I'm more than clear the bar there. But there are lots of uses of the word like die and kill in funny ways, not in like edgy ways. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of refreshing. They can still do like kind of darker jokes that are within the boundaries of what's acceptable on a show like this.
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting because, on OKKO, which is a Y7 show, we could not say those words. There are certain things that we just could not do on that show that seem like they're totally free and easy to do on Jellystone. I'm not sure if that is a Cartoon Network versus Warner Brothers thing, if it's a on-air broadcast versus streaming service thing. But yeah, they can. It seems like the standards for dialogue and stuff were a little bit more lax. Even though I think most people would say the Jellystone is a bit more of a younger centric type show than KO was. It's kind of just strange how these things change from show to show.
And so we then cut to Huckleberry Hound meeting with a certain big guest star.
It's such an honor welcoming you to our con, Space Ghost, Jan, Jace, and of course, Blip. Blip! Ha! Oh, now that is classic Blip. Oh, I almost forgot. Have some Jellystone welcome spaghetti.
Well, don't mind if I do.
I think we're gonna go check out the artist's alley.
You're required to watch me eat. It's in your updated contract.
Huh? Yeah, there it is.
Well, I'm not pointing fingers, but somebody made a fine mess. New mission, team. Search the Phantom Cruiser for an unsullied spacesuit before the Q&A. But first, I'm going to place my power bands right here. Gotta make sure they catch the light just right. There we go. Let's move.
Can we get ice cream on the way back?
Small vanilla cones only. None of that fancy stuff. Space Ghost!
Oh, there it is. The late George Lowe right there as Space Ghost.
And his final two performances are on Jellystone.
Correct. There was one episode after this one where he appears. And so, yeah, that's, as far as I know, that's sad, very sadly his last performances.
I believe that second one was even, released posthumously, I think, too. No, it's crazy. We're recording this, by the way, one day after the 32nd anniversary of the first Coast to Coast airing as well.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, it was April 15th, 1994.
Oh, my God. The show still feels ahead of its time.
It's also like George Lowe is doing his Space Ghost thing, but I feel like in his acting and in the writing there, like he's like three versions of Space Ghost at once. Like he's kind of the domineering jerk Space Ghost who's just like, you have to watch me eat. And then also the exploding out of his clothes and covered in goop stuff. That feels more like the slightly child-friendlier Cartoon Planet Space Ghost. And then he goes off saying Space Ghost like original Space Ghost.
Look, all that I can say to that is thank you for acknowledging the Herculean effort to create a kind of unified version of the character in one scene, trying to get it all and make sure it all is established right away and not throwing off any people who've loved this character for so long. One thing I have to mention, a lot of it is, funniest idea, best idea in any scene in a show like this. I have to mention the scene where he talks about going and getting ice cream. When Space Ghost says, small vanilla cones only, none of that fancy stuff, that is just something my dad once said to me, where I was on a road trip. I was driving to a lake cabin with a couple of my friends and my dad, and we had to stop and get food. We pulled over at the Dairy Queen, and my dad says to me, small vanilla cones only, none of that fancy stuff. My friends buy a bunch of fancy ice cream for themselves, and I'm sitting there with a small vanilla cone because my dad did not want to spring for the fancy stuff. So that's just a real thing that happened.
A small vanilla cone can be delightful. I do enjoy just the simple things in life every once in a while.
I think it can be. I think if you're 14, 15 years old and you're looking across the table at your friends with blizzards and you've got the small vanilla cone.
That's true.
It's a little sad.
You want like at least 3 Butterfingers chopped up into your ice cream.
Exactly.
At that age.
I think I was able to haggle him up to a dipped cone on that day.
Wow, and Space Ghost is being like the dad of Jan and Jace here as well in this. Like, also that's I believe that's Andy Merrill as Jace there too, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
I think he played him at least once or twice. And Jace had a lot of voice actors in Space Ghost. There was no Coast to Coast. There was no set guy for him.
Yeah, a very underloved character. And one thing I have to mention is the original board, when he explodes out of his clothes, I drew the Cartoon Planet logo on his underwear. And in the final version, it's the Space Ghost logo. I'm not exactly sure if that was intentional or not or whatever, because, of course, Cartoon Planet gets mentioned later. But just a little bit of trivia.
I saw too in your boards that Huck and Mr. Jinx kind of blush at Space Ghost in his undies as well.
How could you not? I mean, the guy is cut,
Let's talk. Like that's Huckleberry Hound there, and I mean he's so great. He is more of a Southern dandy than ever in this performance, I'd say too. Like he's so great as like the mayor character, the nicest mayor character in a town. Like he fulfills a role of the mayor in like you see in many an animated sitcom, except he's the nicest mayor ever. Like that's what's great.
Yeah, I was very happy anytime I had a scene with Huck. He was very, very, very fun to both write and draw.
And Greenblatt said, why is he the mayor? When asked about it, he says, to me, he's like the granddaddy Hanna-Barbera character. He's the heart and soul of this world, so he's got to be the core guy who loves the town more than anyone. He is the prototype Hanna-Barbera character.
That makes perfect sense to me. Because also, like, what else would he do? What other role would make more sense, in this world? It works perfectly.
I'm trying to remember, what exactly did Huckleberry Hound do in his original series? Like, what was his thing? I know he was a sort of like a send-up of Andy Griffith, or kind of borrowing that kind of laid-back Southern vibe. But what was his kind of active duty in that series?
I feel like it was he would like go to like place to place and encounter, like a mean dog or a not nice sheriff. Though usually he would, in like the latter day stuff, he would get recast and things. Like his 80s movie was like a Western. It was like a Clint Eastwood style Western.
And I have that on Blu-ray as part of the Hanna-Barbera Superstars 10 collection. I don't think I would have been interested enough to buy until after working on Jellystone, where I'd gained so much additional knowledge and affection for those characters. I'll report back once I watch The Good, the Bad, and the Huckleberry Hound.
Okay.
Let you know.
So he's really the Mr. Game & Watch of the Hanna-Barbera universe. He wears a lot of hats.
Exactly.
He rings a bell sometimes.
Yep, and he's a character who you could bring in a climactic scene of a feature film and nobody would be confused.
My mom, that was one of her favorites, was Huckleberry Hound from her childhood. She loved to sing to me as a kid, Clementine, the song that he always, like Huckleberry Hound, oh my darling, oh my darling. Like he would always sing that song. And hearing the way that he says blip, that is classic blip. Like oh God, it's so funny. Also, the welcome spaghetti, is this the beginning of the running gag of the spaghetti, or what did it come to you fully formed?
That's a great question. The welcome spaghetti, I believe, was in the outline, and I can't confirm whether or not it was in a previous episode. I watched all the episodes before joining up on the show, but it was kind of in a marathon. But I do know that it did become a recurring thing, which is just like a fun bit of like casual absurdism that people get a bowl of spaghetti as a welcome.
And yes, George Lowe said he passed away just within a year of this airing. It at least got people to share a bunch of great Space Ghost clips on social media to remember. Like I think some people took it for granted just how great he was. Like he just was Space Ghost to us.
Yeah, I feel like just with Andy Merrill, when I hear the original Gary Owen Space Ghost, I think, well, that sounds wrong. Even though George Lowe's voice started as an impression of him, and then it grew from there. I feel like, well, I guess now we have to have a third Space Ghost, and what's that going to sound like? Will I like it?
Look, I mean, I know I speak in hyperbole a lot about Space Ghost Coast to Coast in this episode, but George Lowe as Space Ghost, one of the funniest performances of all time of any voice.
I mean, just like, nobody cares, Moby. Nobody cares.
We're saying that to this very day.
Also on that Small Vanilla Cones line, you drew the most best used Space Ghost shots that was in Cartoon Planet. Felt like every episode of Coast to Coast or Cartoon Planet was that like undershot of him with it's a yellow background here, but it works with any background.
Had to do a couple of those because in those shows you're seeing the same shots over and over and over again, so it's just burned into your brain. So it felt like a requirement to pull in a couple of those shots for the episode.
So then we go to the floor of the convention as the kids are looking for some armbands, which are then corrected to power bands by Touche Turtle as well, which again, that's like Touche Turtle is then put with the Three Musketeer dogs. They were in separate cartoons. They had two different Three Musketeer style cartoon series. That's how many cartoon shows Hanna-Barbera made.
Yes, I had to look this up because I thought, was Touche Turtle an additional character on an existing show? But no, he had his own vehicle called Touche Turtle and Dum Dum.
See, this is the dream. I want nothing more than to show up at the office and be like, oh, they're picking up 5 shows that are cartoons that are basically variations on the same idea, and we're doing 60 episodes of each one. What I would say to that is thank you, thank God, so many people are about to be employed.
Yeah. Well, it just shows like the power that Hanna-Barbera had in the 60s. They could just show up and say, I don't know, it's a turtle, 1 year on the air, let's go, he's got a sword, okay, fine.
Yeah. And the gamble paid off. You know, they made 1 billion of these shows, but several of them became these cultural phenomenons that people still care about.
Well, Kung Fu's big now. A dog does Kung Fu. Scatman Crothers. There. We got it. Done. Yeah. That's something, too, I'll say, that Jellystone in general handles very well. There are some older Hanna-Barbera characters that, you know, the way they were done then wouldn't be done now. And I felt like they've, like, you can look at the cast. The cast is full of, like, I would say, appropriate casting for the voices of characters like Shazam or Quick Draw McGraw mostly just lives as El Kabong all of the time in this universe.
Correct. I don't know that Quick Draw McGraw appears much in the show. And these are all decisions that are made very carefully. But again, in the interest of comedy, it's like if we're going to make these changes and tweaks, we should make sure that we're doing so in a way that allows for as much comedy as possible. And I think that's the way it feels so good.
And when they're on the show floor, in your script, you had some more references too. That like Magilla Gorilla was dressed as, and I looked that one up, Space Ace. I had forgotten that Astro the dog had his own spin-off adventure show in the 80s.
Yes, I was going deep into the wiki trying to find characters, and I think I even had some of them dressed as C-Lab characters before I knew I would be doing a C-Lab episode for some of those references. And I believe they all got changed to more generic costumes, presumably to just not be distracting. So much stuff already going on in the episode.
In your C-Lab episode, by the way, that when that scorpion showed up, I screamed. I screamed.
Another wellness check at the Gilbert house.
Look, once again, you gotta do it, you know, because I you know, we try to not just do references and stuff, and it's like you want to tell the story, you want the characters to be true to the moment and all that stuff. But if you're doing C-Lab and you have the one chance, you at least got to throw the scorpion in there. You know, it just if the opportunity presents itself.
So the kids are searching. They can find a fried power band, and they can find glass-blown fantasy orbs, but they just can't find power bands. And they're pretty much just giving up, and they're gonna let Peter kill himself. So, but then Shag smells the power bands, and when they go in there and like, I wondered about standards and practices in this. Like, the kids just steal them. Like, they just go. Like, I was surprised that is an imitatable act a child could do.
Yeah, that was no issue at all. And in fact, not only is it not an issue, but we draw attention to it. We make it clear that they're stealing, they're doing something wrong. I think because it's just a comedy cartoon, you know, it's very irreverent, and so yeah, no issues whatsoever there.
And ultimately, they're put in danger, so they're paying for their crimes.
That's true. It's actually kind of a moral tale.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when Peter is gifted his new power bands, and this is again where the start of my husband goofing on me in this scene begins.
Oh, thank you. Oh, they're so sugoi. To the convention. Huh. That's odd. Nobody seems to care about my epic cosplay.
You should take that off.
Are you sure? I don't want people thinking I charge for hugs. I give these babies away for free.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is what physical affection feels like. Hey, is that Space Ghost? It's you, Space Ghost!
Is you Space Ghost? That's love that.
Is that Space Ghost? Is you Space Ghost? The kind of thing, you know, not a lot of shows you can do a nonsense turn of phrase like that in. So I'm grateful.
Now, I say I identify a lot with Peter. I would not be a free hugs guy I don't want to be giving out free hugs. That's not me.
No, you're more aware of official merch, and I'm actually surprised you are not wearing a Hanna-Barbera hoodie, Henry. Were there none available?
There pretty much aren't. Well, you know what? They used to, the Hanna-Barbera characters were at all these like Six Flags or no, Great Adventure, but like they weren't around. I didn't have any around me, unfortunately. Though I did love the Toontastic, the ride that was a Universal Studios.
Funtastic, I think. Funtastic World of Hanna-Barbera?
Yes. I think that's right.
I am surprised to report that Free Hugs lives to this day. I drove by an anime convention in Pasadena last year, and there was someone standing there in line with a Free Hugs shirt on right then and there. It's like, I don't know if it's an ironic take on Free Hugs or what, but it was still happening.
See, here we were hoping that COVID would end those, but
yeah, well, with inflation, the hugs they can't be free anymore. You got to pay at least a little bit.
I think COVID was a government plan to end free hugs, socialized hugs, not in this country.
It is great that Peter tosses it off and it lands on Mildew Wolf, who is starved for affection. Hugging himself is what is his reaction to physical
Mildew
affection.
hates himself so much that the only way he could have permission to love himself is to have a free hug sign on.
The Wikipedia, regular Wikipedia, tells me that Paul Lynde was the original Mildew Wolf, but was uncredited for some reason. Like, he did do it. Like, then by Laugh Olympics, it's somebody else doing an impression of Paul Lynde.
Yeah, I wonder what the story is there. Maybe he had like an exclusivity deal or something.
I think he was paid in cocktails.
Bernardo de Paula is the voice of Mildew, and I think he has a Paul Lynde who really hates himself and is sad. Like, it's not as sassy of a Paul Lynde, but it still is like, it is recognizably that imitation, but it's his own thing too.
Yeah, there are a couple characters in the show where it is just that they're pathetic and lonely and sad. And Mildew's definitely up there, but Wally Gator also sometimes ends up getting written that way as well. And it's just fun.
That's why it's nice that him and Wally Gator are hugging it out later in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all of that. Then Mildew gets kicked off the screen by the other big guest star in this episode. It feels right with the world hearing Brack talk like this again.
All right, guys, this is going great. Nobody knows we're actually villains because we look exactly like the Galaxy Trio. Thanks for knitting the costumes, Moltar.
I just like keeping my hands occupied.
Now let's go over the evil plan one more time.
We go to Space Ghost's panel.
Yep.
When the time is ripe, we embarrass him in front of everybody.
Boom, baby.
Then he dies.
Well, if that happens, it's just a nice cherry on top. So now we just gotta make sure we don't give away our evil plan. Excuse me. Hey, do you have anything three evil villains in disguise could use to ruin the Space Ghost panel? I'm asking for a friend, not this handsome lad next to me. Nope, he wouldn't do that. Just another one. He's not here.
Hey, wait a minute. I've never heard of anyone having more than one friend before.
Run!
Oh, man, I could taste that sail.
I believe the first time he's voiced Brack since a 2012 very short-lived Cartoon Planet reboot or revival.
Right. And a dozen years, and again, listeners, just like Space Ghost, we covered the Brack show. Bob did a great history on Brack and Andy Merrill's career. It was really great. Andy Merrill himself, I believe, listened to it.
No, he didn't. In fact, he was mad that we were charging money on our Patreon, and he did not respond to me when I said it'll be on the free feed next week for free, and I'll send you the file now. So, Henry, you made up a much nicer story. And to be fair, Andy Merrill in a bad place at the time. So I understand why he was a little grumpy, but I hope he knows that everybody got to hear our celebration of how great he is.
No, it really did feel like after this episode aired in 2024, that was around where Andy Merrill's it felt like there was more appreciation for him too. And he's kind of bounced back. It was doing more conventions, was booking more gigs, based on his social media, Instagram and Blue Sky that I see, he seems to be doing pretty good, doing good these days, I think.
I mean, any part that the episode did in that, I hope is the case. And I know he also does a voice on Kif as well. And, look, one of the great geniuses out there. And I have to say, I wasn't there for most of the voice records because I was just a board artist, but I did sit in on the record for Andy Merrill as Brack. And I was geeking out like crazy watching him do these runs and just go off and do all kinds of improvising as the character. It was truly wild to get to see Andy Merrill perform as Brack, and it was amazing.
Well, and like you said, this is such a tightly boarded show that improvisation is not discouraged, but you got to make room for it in your 11 minutes.
The thing is, it's definitely a special case here when you have Brack, because so much of that character, the voice of that character, is things that, I don't know that you could just write. And so a lot of the stuff in that clip comes from the board, but there's the part at the end where he goes off and he's like, oh yeah, no, not this handsome fellow over here. He wouldn't do that. Like, he's just going, and that's just him just going in the record. It's like a true gift to be able to be part of that.
Yeah, Andy Merrill is one of those guys who could read the phone book and make it funny, and just a very simple stock line like, oh no, becomes 1,000 times more hilarious when he says it. I don't understand why. It just is unique delivery.
And also, again, the reason I mentioned it before, but like another reason like our generation has an admiration for Hanna-Barbera cartoons that like appear in this is also because like Andy Merrill, along with C. Martin Croker and others, were programming Cartoon Network with those cartoons. Like he knows those Hanna-Barbera cartoons so well from logging the tapes and moving the masters around and saying like, well, how do you air Moxie? Like he's like, those are the decisions he made. He was working on back then.
Yep. And yeah, I definitely felt a tremendous amount of pressure and pride to be there, figuring out how to bring these characters in. And I don't know how or why the decision would be that they would all three do a keep on trucking walk as the first thing that they do when you see them, but it just felt right.
Yes, we have references to old Hanna-Barbera characters and also R. Crumb. This episode.
So, while they're dressed as the Galaxy Trio, so you're also fitting in another reference to action Hanna-Barbera contemporaries of Space Ghost.
Another pause and Wikipedia search for me, the Galaxy Trio. I thought I knew all these characters. Jellystone is proving me wrong.
I think that, again, the Gravity Girl was a major character in a few episodes of Harvey Birdman, so that's how I remembered the Galaxy Trio. Compared to them, the Galaxy Trio is fine, but the Impossibles, I liked them more. I'm sure they were in Jellystone somewhere. I can't think of them.
Yes. The answer is yes.
And yes, we mentioned sadly, C. Martin Croker not with us to voice Moltar and Zorak in this. Bernardo De Paula's Moltar is great, and so is Jim Conroy's Zorak. They both are doing stupendous jobs. They could take over the roles if needed. I would say they're that good for it. Like that Moltar could host Toonami tomorrow.
And in fact, I would say if anyone ever wants to do something with these characters and do more animation with these characters, call me. I want to do it. I would love to do it.
Putting it out there, guys. Tell your friends. Also, there was another great joke in your bit there of that was from your boards. Wally Gator, after he says he regrets losing the sale, he wonders, like, why did I read this book? And the book is How to Sell Stuff by Being Unnecessarily Suspicious of Potential Customers, written by no one. And then when it's revealed that it's written by no one, it vanishes from his hands as he's looking at it.
I forgot about that. I'm pretty proud of that one.
That's that felt like a very Toby joke to me.
Yeah, the vanishing from the visual gag there. Yeah, gotta laugh in the pitch, but that takes a long time to deliver that type of joke. We only have 11 minutes.
It reminded me of one of my favorite jokes in AJ Goes to the Dog Park too. That also felt that the fisherman looking up at the sky and the reveal of what his the constellation was, like that. For some reason, that made me laugh. That was my hardest laugh of AJ Goes to the Dog Park, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, it is a very spiritually similar type of joke for sure.
You know, I owned a good number of wall scrolls in my teens and 20s, but now I have become more of a framing a print type guy than a wall scroll.
We all eventually transition out of wall scrolls, I think. It's safe to say.
Yeah. Did I bring a Fully Cooley wall scroll with me to college and have it up in my college dorm? Yes. Mm-hmm. Did I know that I would one day get paid to put the word wall scroll into an episode of animated television? No. That's life.
I had a Ranma one and an Evangelion one. Those are the two main wall scrolls I remember.
I had a Big Slayer's Next wall scroll, and I believe it is still safely stored at my mom's house. In case I get back into wall scrolls, which could happen. Don't rule it out.
Mom, you're protecting those wall scrolls, right? Those are only going to go up in value.
And this is where Peter learns that these are not just props.
Oh, wall scrolls. Okay, I think I want that one. Whoa, these actually work!
Try that and more stuff!
Oh no, Boo-Boo! My nachos have congealed! Hey, thank you, Space Ghost!
Hachi Machi! It's like I'm really Space Ghost!
There you are, Space Ghost. Time for the panel.
Yeah, it's gotta be in here somewhere. Don't worry, you three. There'll be plenty of time for your little treats.
Okay, Toby, was it you who made him say Hachimachi? Was that
Yes.
Okay.
And when I was asked if Hachimachi was intentionally a reference to anything at all, I said no, in the interest of making sure that it makes it into the episode.
And of course, it's not a reference. You made that up, right?
Yeah, it's just a phrase people say.
Oh yeah, everybody's been saying it for at least 30 years now.
Since
Yeah.
since January 94, I think, is when it all entered our lexicons.
Yeah, and on an unrelated note, if that proposed reboot of The Critic ever comes into existence, please call me.
Yes, the I just saw Al Jean he had pulled the story Bible out of storage. I saw he posted that on Twitter. Like he's I believe work seems to be continuing on that.
Oh, was it a story Bible? I just saw like signage. Was it the actual like?
Oh, it was signed. It looked like a folder. Maybe
Okay,
I
like
was
a binder.
assuming. It looked like a binder of stuff. I could be wrong though. Yeah.
I'm not saying that as a film snob animation professional, it's the show I was born to work on. But, I think I probably would die unfulfilled if I didn't.
That, yes. Hearing Peter Potterman say Hachimachi, that was another this takes this up even another notch for me of an episode.
And again, it has to be natural. He would say it. He would say it.
It was another husband looks at you accusingly as your Peter Potterman moment for me as well.
Yeah.
Also, the any good just little bit of Yogi of him being like a glutton and the nachos being on fire the rest of the episode when he's eating or talking, again, just a great gag.
Yes, and I had to appreciate the sound design on that this time that I was hearing it. The way that you can hear the crackle of the fire every time his mouth opens, I thought was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Then when it cuts over to the Phantom Cruiser again, it also is like one of the stock Phantom Cruiser shots, like the top-down shot of, or maybe it's a three-quarter view, you'd say, but of the Phantom Cruiser flying around.
Yep. Look, very cool design. Like all the other Space Ghost designs, it's just cool.
No, yeah, he has the cool. Alex Toth designed the Herculoids look really cool. Harvey Birdman and his enemies look really cool, but Space Ghost is like of the action Hanna-Barbera characters. Some may say Johnny Quest is first, but to me, it's like it is Space Ghost.
Yeah, I agree.
No offense to Johnny Quest. We all love Walking Eyes, and wouldn't have Venture Brothers without it, that's for sure.
Growing up, I only enjoyed the CG sections from the New Adventures of Johnny Quest.
Oh, yeah, I was a big fan of those.
So, yes, Peter Potterman is the talk of the town. Everybody's loving him. They think he's the real Space Ghost. He is giggling with joy at his cosplay is so good. Every dope in Jellystone thinks he is the actual Space Ghost. And that's where the opening clip I played was of like that Yaki even saying like, also, we are children. Like they are very nervous to go up on stage. Toby, is any of this pulled from your experience of like being on a panel at a con?
Oh, the part where they actually are doing the panel. Very much so. Yeah, because I've been fortunate enough to do a few panels, and I've also been an audience member to a bunch of panels. And so, yeah, I was just trying to observe truthfully like what that feels like and the kinds of questions you get, obviously, with some degree of affection as well, because it is fun to do. But yeah, all that stuff definitely, even the feeling of like being behind the thing, getting ready for it to start, is all kind of observed a little bit from doing panels.
And this is where we get the intro of Snagglepuss saying, I want to kiss him. Like, Snagglepuss being able to say he wants to kiss Space Ghost is, I feel like that wouldn't fly in a 2015 cartoon. I don't know.
I don't even know if it would fly in a 2025 cartoon.
Oh, you're right. It's in that dip of when it would be allowed. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Now, this bit here of Peter Potterman being able to answer the trivia, it also does remind me of, for both Bob and me, when we've been lucky enough to do a live podcast with Bill Oakley, he knows a lot more about some things in his Simpsons episodes than we do. But I do remember like when we were at that trivia with Bill and somebody asked a question about why does Homer's shoes look this way in this one scene? Like Bill said, ask them, they know, and pointed at us. And we did know. We instantly answered.
It's just an animation error. Like they painted the cell the wrong color in this section or something like that. It was just like something very simple, but there was no intentionality behind it. It was a mistake.
Yeah.
It was in just those little moments like that is to be like, oh, I am such a good fan that I can be Space Ghost and answer questions about Space Ghost trivia. And this is where the Q&A begins, which, you know what, we never do Q&A at our live podcast. I don't think we want to.
I've done a lot of panels for Retronauts, my other podcast. I used to do like 2 or 3 a year, and I just do the one. And early on, I thought, oh yeah, Q&A, a natural part of any panel. And I quickly learned I should not do that. No offense to anyone who asked me a question, but not always a great thing. And I know Henry, I've been to many events that had a Q&A, and Henry is the guy who will try to rescue the Q&A. And Henry does try, but I feel like every Q&A is doomed. There's nothing you can do.
I think there's nothing better, and I can speak to this not just from doing panels, but also from, when I did film festivals and toured with AJ Goes to the Dog Park. There's nothing greater than a really good moderator in one of those situations. That is an undervalued skill.
Yes. Thank you, Toby. If you have a Q&A as part of your panel, you need someone to restate the question to the audience, because no one is going to hear a guy just like mumbling into a microphone and then you're answering something that nobody even heard in the first place.
Now, I'm sure I've asked a bad Q&A question myself from standing in line, but in the last 15 years when I've bothered to stand and get in the line, it is because I feel like, no, I have a good question. On that good moderator thing, I won't name names, and I won't blame the moderator because the panel just happened to be on Inauguration Day of 2017, so nobody was in a good mood.
Well, why? What happened? Oh, wait. Yeah.
But there was a Venture Brothers panel. It was Jackson Public, Mike Sinternicholas, and Dana Snyder. They were all there, and the moderator didn't really want to talk much about Venture Brothers that day. And that is when I got in the Q&A line and was like, okay, I'll ask the Venture Brothers question. And the moderator actually roasted me first before I was able to, but then I did. And
you're like, I'm trying to save the vibe in here, and you're roasting me. But that's part of it. Part of it is you're like putting yourself up to the fire just to keep things moving smoothly.
Well, and Bob, you were at the Brain Candy one where I accidentally, my Q&A question actually set them up for a clip in a way I didn't realize.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen Henry get frustrated at Q&As and rush up, I'm going to ask the good question, and then there was that one which set them up for a clip. But then you asked Charles Fleischer a question, the voice of Roger Rabbit, and to be fair, lovely man, he's in outer space. His brain is floating around the cosmos right now, and we really can't find it. So you were never going to get a good question in on him. He seemed kind of not happy to be there.
I hope Charles Fleischer, he was a local in San Francisco, I think, so I don't think he traveled too far to do it. But
yeah, but he's just an interesting guy, let's say, Charles Fleischer.
And then another thing about going to film festival screenings or small, screenings of movies, if I'm ever there for someone else's movie, I will just put my hand up right away first, because I don't want them to have that moment of anybody have any questions, and there'd be a long awkward pause. It's I've got my question locked and loaded just in the interest of keeping the momentum going. And I try to give just a production-based question that hopefully is a springboard for some stories. I'm not there to get anything for myself. I'm there in the service of the screening,
Yeah. No, and I just remember now at the Gremlins, in Gremlins 2 screening with Joe Dante that me and you went to, Bob, the moderator for that one I thought was good, but he also kept telling Joe Dante how old he was, which was thought was not so nice to. He was just come on, everybody, Joe Dante, he's 79. Let's give it up for him. And Joe Dante was like, thanks.
And he's not even 79. He's 62. He's what are you doing?
So meanwhile, in your script, Toby, you had a good tip for anybody there. Remember, a good question doesn't start with an I and does end with a question mark.
Yeah, I think I had Snagglepuss saying that to tee it up, yeah.
And so this is where the Q&A begins.
Can we do it now?
When the time is right.
Let's begin the Q&A.
When you defeat Motar and his molten horde, how you survive plunging into lava?
Ah, you forget. In season 4, I had a freeze shield. Okay, funny story. Back then, he used to call himself Moltor, and he wore this putrid little lime green number.
Oh, come on, man.
Wait till everybody sees what we've got. Space Ghost is gonna be so much more embarrassed.
Thank you. Namaste.
I have a very simple 19-part question.
Man, these people are weird. Peter's loving it, though.
Well, to answer questions 1, 2, 3 through 6 and 17, there's really 2 schools of thought. And of course, there's the
Is it time right now?
Gotcha! I want the cookie, Grandma! Oh, yeah, of course. We can do that now. I just wanted a nap.
I should say again, when my husband was looking at me or giving me the look during it, when Peter Potamus says, there's really 2 schools of thought to that. Like, that is me answering things sometimes.
Yeah. There is also the side of like taking the pleasure and like luxuriating in being the person to give the answer as well.
No, it's if my husband says like, well, wait, how many people know Spider-Man's secret identity? And I'd be like, well, it's an interesting. I could do that right now, just like that. Like, but I won't.
This show taught me about Moltar's alternate colors, like his alternate Smash Brothers uniform you can do if you hit like X or something on the title screen.
Yeah, that was just me using the trivia that I personally had learned from researching the show in order to do the episode and just folding it in. And then also, for some reason, to me, the funniest thing is Moltar just responding so flatly, just like, come on, man. Like he's like mildly hurt by the fact that they chose to highlight his embarrassing previous costume.
Those are hideous color choices. I'm glad they eventually rolled that back and went with something more sensible.
I agree.
Yeah, I pulled up the old episodes, and yeah, it's just so funny. The Ovens of Moltor, which is what the title card says. That's the first Moltar episode. OR, it's written, and then he's in that green and white outfit like that. I swear it was on one of the Coast to Coast commentaries. They said that the reason you only saw like 4 shots of Moltar ever in the show that they would just constantly recycle is because they couldn't use his other episode. They could only use his second episode where he's colored differently, the correct way to us.
Yeah, Video Toaster was probably not sophisticated enough at that time to do that. I don't know if they actually did it on Video Toaster or not. That just seemed like the thing they would maybe.
They couldn't afford an Amiga. Or they wouldn't pay for one. Now, who is this German guy? I really have a lot of questions about him and his origins.
Oh, that is Tube, right?
Yeah, that's Tube. He is from Moby Dick, which is a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. As for why he speaks in a heavy German accent, I'm not exactly sure. I know that Dana Snyder likes to do it. I don't believe the character did in the original show. I believe this is just a Jellystone take that he speaks in that voice. And Tube was a character who was not really prominent in the first season, and by the time that I joined the show, the crew had fallen in love with Tube and was using him as much as possible.
You see, I was not aware of this Moby Dick show, Toby, but I was aware of Mightor only because of Harvey Birdman, because he is the judge.
Yes.
Again, I thought he was an original character until like years into Harvey Birdman.
And that the Molten Monsters of Moltar is his. Well, it's hard to call it. I am sounding like Peter here. Okay. It's hard to call it his second episode because really the end of the original Space Ghost set of episodes is like a double 2-parter episode of like all of his villains or a bunch of villains team up to be the Council of Doom, and it's a big 2-parter, and Moltar is part of it, and it's a series of like cliffhanger endings. And the one segment called The Molten Monsters of Moltar, that is the primary Moltar one. It's also, that was the only one I really remembered watching as a kid because it was like a super event. Like, not only does Space Ghost fight all of his biggest enemies who team up, but also he keeps bouncing into other characters' shows. Like, he meets the Herculoids in an episode. Like, it's an interesting series of crossovers.
But did Moltar meet Mightor?
I think the villain stayed away. I think.
I just wanted to say Moltar meet Mightor.
I think that's a new pitch. I'm bringing that to Warner Brothers soon.
Damn it, patent pending.
And actually, I found a clip of the original scene that I have to correct Peter Potamus, though, is it's not a freeze shield. It's
What? Something went wrong.
You forget, Moltar. My power bands are equipped with a freeze field. Stand by to power up. I'm going to blast our way out of here.
Whoa, freeze field. That's better.
I love that scene as just let's call it a contrivance of just the like, oh, you forgot. I just have a freeze field. I don't use it that much, but you know what? I have it right now and I'm using it. Like, oh, well, was that not like, I mean, that's bat shark repellent. It's the same.
I have a dinosaur that eats freeze fields.
Yeah. The power bands are really, it's just like an umbrella for any type of power you might want to have included. It's like a utility belt or something.
Oh yeah, no, I mean they function like Batman's utility belt. They also story function as them. If they get taken away, then it's like a story where Batman doesn't have his utility belt. What can you do? Type story. That also felt like an Andy Merrillism of just like I wasn't cooking, Grandma. Like just a perfect, just Andy a Brack non sequitur.
100%. That is 100%. And again, you have to imagine being there in that moment when he's reading the stuff that you wrote, but then he is just expanding on it and exploding it and filling it with. There are just certain things that I, as a normal human being, cannot write, and that's what Andy Merrill's for. And he brought moments like that, or just that's pure Brack.
And so this is where the villains can't take it anymore. Brack walks up to after the 19-part question is finished, and Peter answered every single possible question. Like he answered it more perfectly than because in Q&As, that can be another very frustrating thing when everybody in the audience feels the question is answered, and then the person who asked the question, who should have had the mic taken away from them already, they then go like, okay, sure, but don't you really? And then they keep going. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's definitely a pet peeve.
Or they want to stick around and kind of pal around with the panelists now that they have some common ground. Like, I asked you a question, you answered it. We're friends now. I'm not leaving.
Yep.
I'm not leaving this spot.
The only appropriate thing to say when your question gets answered is thank you, namaste, and walk away.
Yes. There is something about Captain Caveman saying namaste. Though I'm sorry, I can't accept that he's secretly Barney Rubble covered in hair. I just can't.
I mean, what a wild take.
Yes.
That look, for whatever it's worth, that's a very funny episode.
No, it is. I kid.
You received Henry's hate mail. You responded to it. Now we let the healing begin.
Well, like Captain Caveman didn't even start out as a Flintstones character. Like he was just another Scooby-Doo ripoff. Like he helped teens solve crimes. Like he was an unfrozen caveman who helps teens with solving crimes. And then I believe it's Flintstone Kids that then folds him into. No, you know what? I think it was on the Shmoo Show. But regardless, Captain Caveman then gets folded in naturally to the Flintstones.
It was a long con to destroy Mel Blanc's vocal cords, that character.
Yes.
That's all it was.
And look, one of the more unsung subtle tweaks in the Jellystone universe is the Captain America. Captain America. Captain Caveman and the young adult angels. Important distinction in the Jellystone universe.
Oh, right. That's right. It's a Charlie's Angels riff. It's not just any Scooby-Doo. Man, that's right. Oh, God, the Hanna-Barbera, I love that. Honestly, I love that. You could, I could make fun of it, but it's like, you know what? They saw Charlie's Angels and they put him with a caveman,
and they said, "Gimme."
Yeah, I'm just saying, being in animation, we should be in a volume business. I think TV needs to get back to becoming a volume business. I want 50 episode seasons back. I want instant syndication back. I want to be in a situation where there are so many hours of content that we have to write that we are desperately scrambling for ideas every single week.
Mm-hmm.
That, I believe, is the natural state that television should be in.
Yeah, I want that, and I want more whimsical plagiarism.
100%.
In that and in video games.
Yep.
So this is where Brack and the rest confront Space Ghost and try to embarrass him with a photo that listeners, you got to look at it. It's a hilarious photo.
It's all of the hallmarks of early aughts fashion. It is a bucket hat. It is one of those club shirts with the flames coming up from the bottom.
Yeah.
He's holding a Discman. I don't know if what he's drinking is a reference to anything. Is it Toby?
He's probably just drinking like Mountain Dew or something. It was a very personal type of image for me in my own life. The thing that to me was really important, it's a minor detail, is he has the headphones that wrap around the back, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And then the cord for the headphones is threaded under his shirt and through the bottom, which to me was like a huge thing that I was always doing.
God, and are the jeans Jinko? Is he Jinkoing
I don't
out?
know if they're literally Jinko,
Right.
but they're definitely Jinko-esque, yeah.
It's it's perfect. I get that image. The fact that it's dated also so specifically March 31st, 2002 is so great too. Like,
wait, did I do March 31st? Because that's my birthday. That's
fun.
I believe it is.
Obviously not 2002, but yeah.
You know what? I think by the time this episode hits our feed, all of these fashions have come back. So Space Ghost looks very contemporary. I've seen the Billie Eilishes of the world. They look like Space Ghost in 2002. Sorry, Toby.
No, that's exactly accurate. Yeah, pretty much every single aspect of that fashion is back in play. Jack Black is wearing the flame shirts on the Mario Galaxy tour. Like, yeah.
I should have grabbed my Evangelion bucket hat out of and worn it for this podcast recording.
Now, when you say you have an Evangelion bucket hat, what does that mean?
Well, it's all right. I'm just going to have to grab it. It's an overall
for the
print,
listener, Henry has several bucket hats. He's grabbing one of them.
Well, I do have a Krusty the Clown one as well, but okay, I'll be right back.
Twist my arm. I'll get my Evangelion bucket hat.
Okay, I am back.
I don't see a hat.
Isn't it always the way you brag about your Evangelion bucket hat and then you can't find it? I do have my my Krusty the Clown one though.
There we go.
Whoa.
Krusty brand logo on it. The seal.
Is
of quality.
Jamiroquai suddenly on our podcast? Oh my God! The furniture is sliding around your room, Henry. You need to get this under control.
Though I did grab one thing to brag about, though, my fanny pack of the Hideaki Anno exhibition here.
Damn. I mean, that is, look, I'm impressed.
You know, I guess I got to keep this on the rest of the podcast.
That's your punishment.
The Evangelion one I have, I should say, is reversible. It's like an overall print of just like the Evangelion text, and like it's either purple or red reversible. So it's just the logo, and I feel like there's a picture of Unit 1 on it, but I could be wrong there.
Well, I'm seeing it in my mind's eye now, as is my only option because you denied me seeing it with my real eyes.
If I can find it, I'll put an email back with a picture to you guys.
Thank you.
I've struck out on when we did the Mario Galaxy one.
Yeah.
I also could not find my Mario 4K.
Well, we have to post this image when the episode goes live. Listeners, yell at us if this does not happen, please.
Have you guys released your Mario Galaxy podcast yet?
That is coming out on the 20th of April. Of course, if you're listening to this now, this podcast we're on now, it's already out on Retronauts.
I'm going to be downloading that so fast. I'm looking forward to hearing your
Thank
thoughts
you.
on that.
But this is where Brack can takes no more.
Hi, Space Ghost. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I was just wondering how you would feel if 3 villains stormed the stage right now.
I'll feel this one. Bad.
Well, good.
Because we are villains, and we want you to feel bad.
It's really you guys!
We're sick of you taking the spotlight. We're cool characters, too. That's what my mom says, and that's what Clarence says, and that's what everybody that liked me said. And I got more mail than you during Cartoon Planet, because people like my adorableness. Yeah. Now we're going to embarrass you in front of all your fans. Time for a space roast.
Well, I think that's a really cool picture. Your attempt to embarrass Space Ghost, I mean, me, will not stand.
Then stick 'em up, little man.
Fight! 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 This is just like my fan fiction coming true. Oh, it's all coming true.
You know Peter's gonna die, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's that reference to death again. The die right there, man. Peter, like in tears that his fan fiction has come to life here. And also I love that he like invisos in and out, like to enter, just like how Space Ghost starts coast to coast. I should have mentioned that earlier. But
when he first enters there. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And he does a little dance, and he teleports in exactly like the damn show.
And this is the big action section where first Moltar gets it in a recreation of his set. Like that's how him just like it's him clicking the control room panel. Like
I
it's
think
so good.
all told, I think I've maybe seen 20 hours of that footage across all the years of Space Ghost and Cartoon Planet and Toonami. If you add it all up, I think I've seen just 20 hours of Moltar pulling the lever.
Yeah.
And you know what? I bet Brack did the way he kind of took over the Cartoon Planet reruns. Like I feel like they got very Brack centric. I believe he got more mail.
Look, this whole thing was really interesting because we're writing Brack kind of in the coast to coast way, but he's a villain here, and so it was a really interesting balance to kind of a tightrope to walk there. But I think it worked out pretty well. And this was another example where there's plenty of Andy in there. Like that whole spiel, I believe in my original board, he just says, we're cool characters too, and then it keeps moving. So that entire minute of stuff afterward is just Andy going off. And it's like, look, it's a true gift to be able to hear pure Brack like that.
I mean, I believe the fan mail thing, that Cartoon Planet is where I fell in love with Brack. I'm actually a bigger Cartoon Planet fan than I am a Coast to Coast fan. I love Cartoon Planet so much.
Yeah, I wish the Cartoon Planet was easier to find and around for longer, because the original sketches from that show are pretty brilliant stuff.
Yeah, it's rougher with Cartoon Planet because it had no like set episode. Like it just was like interstitials, sometimes as their own show of just the interstitials together, sometimes as cut between Yogi Bear cartoons.
I only watched the version that was just sketches. I think the summer of '96 perhaps is when every night there'd be another episode of Cartoon Planet made up of all the interstitial sketches, and I just loved it so much.
And with enough original songs to fill more than one CD. So the action happens here. This is then he jumps up and easily deflects a laser shot from Brack, zaps him, and that's where Brack goes, "Oh beans, oh beans," like just a classic "Oh beans." That was on your board, so
yeah.
But that's like that was a catchphrase of Brack.
I guess another content note. I noted the usage of like die and kill, punches in the face. Nice to see.
Correct. No impact flashes hiding the direct physical violence on this show.
And then Zorak is faced with getting a Destructo Ray, which is even done like the spin the hands around zap thing that was done in the classic Coast to Coast they played all the time. Zorak, though, he's been zapped enough by Destructo Rays, and he just hits himself and falls off.
Yeah. The escalation is a de-escalation. He just gives up and shrugs and punches himself in the face.
Well, and then when they all fall off screen together, like, well, where do you expect us to be? Is that just about like how that Peter's used to in the classic cartoons? If a character falls off of the screen, then they're defeated, and that's the end of it, instead of just they're fine.
And I think it was a thing where it's like, doing the action scene, I want it to be a little bit dynamic, and so they end up in the air, jumping around like that. But they all have to end up back on the stage for that final part. So, but yeah, it's logical. It's just kind of like he is a media-minded person. He saw someone fly off screen, so why would they still be there?
Yeah, I think Peter was thinking of Smash Brothers. He thought these guys like, they all got ringed out.
I would bet Peter is a big time Smash player. I'm going to say he mains DK. What do you guys think?
Oh, he's a mega weeb. I think he mains Lucas from Mother 3.
Oh,
that's a good pick. Yeah. I mean, he also could be a classic Final Destination Fox wave dashing type guy.
That's true. Yeah, man. Though, I would bet, based on his love of the anime pillows, though, I would bet he has at least one of the Fire Emblem characters, too. It's like
or one of the Xenoblade babes. I think there's only one in the game.
Yeah. So this is where the bad guys got Space Ghost and his friends cornered here, but they learn a lesson.
Shield activate! Oh no, my free shield is weakening! Oh, kids, if we don't survive this, I just want to say, this was the best day of my life. Thank you for getting me these power bands.
I mean, if we had known we'd ended up in danger, we probably wouldn't have done it, but you're welcome.
Wait, Sora, Brack, Moltar, do you hear that?
Zora, Brack, and Moltar! They're cheering? For us?
Zorak, Brack, and Moltar, we are so happy to have you at our con. Please have some welcome spaghetti.
Huh? What?
I always enjoy a Chuck Jones Grinch joke, but I like how we see who was holding the little X-ray window.
Yeah, for some reason that's my favorite part as well. That it's a like 10-foot long pole that he's holding up from all the way across the room.
And Zorak is so evil that his heart's not going to grow that much from this.
That would be impossible. I mean, this is Zorak. He's the most evil guy in the world.
Zorak is the Joker of Space Ghost's Rogues Gallery. Alex Ross, the great comic artist and writer, he headed up a very serious Space Ghost series in like the year two in the aughts. I think out of his own love of classic Space Ghost and a perhaps an answer to the Space Ghost that we grew up with, he did a very straightforward Space Ghost thing with battling Zorak and making it clear, like, no, Zorak is not to be laughed at. He's scary.
I should take a look at that because I would love to see how he drew Zorak in his comic, or painted, as he's known to do. The thing about Zorak and all these characters, well, specifically Zorak and Brack, very hard to draw, very complicated. Look amazingly cool, very hard to get right.
Zorak's beak is so, I mean, I love every time his like little beak moves. It's so fun. Or the laugh. That's one of my favorite recycled Zorak things. It's just that laugh they did.
And with Brack, I always look at his design and think, like, what is he? What's going on here?
Is he a cat man that like wears a mask, or is it all a mask?
And there's like the draping fabric in the back too. It's like such a strange idea even. So yeah, I have no idea. Very hard to draw.
And so the guys line up for their signing. Moltar has an 8x10 of himself in a casual look. And this is where, in our final clip here, it's a happy ending for everybody, including Space Ghost and Peter Potamus.
Stay molten, baby.
Well, I guess we learned a valuable lesson. Steal from your heroes. Not metaphorically, but literally. There will be no consequences.
Sorry I'm late. We had to check a bunch of different ice cream places. They all had weird hours. Wait a minute, who's that fellow on stage pretending to be me?
Nah, man, this is Space Ghost. Your name is Peter Potamus.
Really? Huh. I guess I'm not the real Space Ghost. I guess I'm Peter. Sounds good. This is good. Peter Potamus, who lives in Jellystone. I suppose that was always me. Sometimes when I look up at the stars, I feel a yearning. What does it all mean?
What an end! That I mean, maybe it feels more touching now with George Lowe no longer with us. But that on first viewing, I was like, wow, this is like it's a beautiful ending after all, and so strange after all of that.
Space Ghost has found peace in his new life.
Yeah, thank you. That's definitely maybe my proudest moment on Jellystone. That sequence came from it started as just I think in my handout meeting when I got with the outline, it was just like a riff of us in the conversation of like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if Space Ghost gets tricked into thinking he's Peter? And then I just decided to add this entire like weird, surreal, emotional epilogue. And sometimes you got to take a swing like that, you know. And I'm very happy that it went through and made it into the episode. And it's true. It had a lot of additional extra weight to it, you know, after George Lowe passed away. And when I saw people online calling it like a weird like ending for the character or something like that, which is of course not what was intended. It was intended to be one of those things that like toes that line of being the most strange and surreal thing while also being emotional. But it definitely, I'm very pleased that it kind of had this unintentional additional effect.
Yeah, it's just the stars in his eyes as he looks up, and the now Peter and his new sidekicks, like they're on the TV, like they are now in the cartoon show Space Ghost somehow. Like and also just as a great, I loved it when the turn begins as just a great zig when you think they're going to zag of like, well, this is Peter's comeuppance here. Like, oh, the real Space Ghost is here. And then instantly like, it's like, no, you're Peter Potamus. Like, oh, okay. This feels right. Yeah.
Well, I think it fits with the thing of like no lesson being learned, because we had just said that there were no consequences to stealing, and now there are no consequences to stealing someone's personality in life, and then everyone's happy in the end.
Also, the design of Space Ghost wearing Peter Potamus clothes is also very funny.
It's very cute. One thing I need to mention quickly that's from a little bit earlier, the 8x10 that Moltar gives away is directly based on an 8x10 of Bob Saget that I have, where he says, "You're too cool," and it's signed Bob Saget. That's just a side note.
Is he wearing the sweater?
Yes, the exact like proportions and everything is Bob Saget's 8x10.
Are these like old Full House 8x10s?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
In high school, a friend of mine and I had a love of ironically watching Full House together every night. We'd watch like 4 episodes on Nick at Night together. And as a gift, I got this headshot of Bob Saget at the end the time.
And then that's the beautiful ending of it. And obviously, there's nothing else you could complain about the HBO Max app about. But boy, do they make it hard to watch. It's like a game to try to read those credits. Like, I literally have to be like, Okay. Oh, there's the thing. Okay. Pause. No, it hit next. I did not press next episode. Pause.
I feel like
pause.
every time you want to watch credits, it's like playing WarioWare suddenly when you're relaxing and you have to realize, like, okay, what do I hit? When do I hit enter? Oh no, I went to the next episode. Can I go back to the original episode? Yes, but then you have to fast forward to the credits and play the game again.
Yeah, because also if you want to pause the credits, usually you unintentionally will press the next episode button. I just went through this today when I rewatched the episode. I pressed up. And that got me to the place where I could pause and look at the credits. But it is also funny that it's like, also the credits are so fast. And so this episode has this like slow, melancholic ending. And then suddenly it's like, poof, like all the credits are blasting through.
Yep. It can be a little of it's whiplash, but it's fun whiplash. If you're watching it in a browser, at least hitting pause isn't so hard. But if you're watching on a TV, not so easy. But man, what a great episode like that. And that's like, it's at the tippity top of my list of Jellystone episodes, just from like, it is. I love Peter Potamus. His characterization really speaks to me, but also just as a tribute to like all eras of Space Ghost, it's a beautiful episode. I do love it.
And clearly there's a lot to explore because we are now past the 3-hour mark on our recording about this 10-minute episode. So it's no frivolous show. It's no fluffy show. There's just so much to dig into in terms of references. And I did enjoy this new take on the characters. I did enjoy the art style and the fun drawings and the slightly darker gags. And I like how they're wheeling out things that even I haven't seen as a cartoon podcaster. This show is causing me to Google, and now I'm really in touch with Touche Turtle and Dum Dum more than I ever have been before.
Yeah, it was really, really fun to do the episode, and I do think that it just happened that I was a really natural fit for the humor. And a lot of the stuff that just I was doing to crack myself up ended up, walking that line really nicely of fitting the tone of the show and also fitting with kind of fusing together all these versions of these characters while also hopefully bringing something new to the table.
Well, Toby Jones, thank you for giving us 1/8 of your day today to record this episode. And please let us know where we can find you online. And if you want to plug anything, now's the time to do it.
I'm online as Toby Jones, anywhere where you might try to find me. And you can and should always watch OKKO, Let's Be Heroes, however you can. And regular show, The Lost Tapes, which is coming out very soon. I hope you check that out, and I hope you enjoy that. And, of course, I made a feature film called AJ Goes to the Dog Park, which is available on Blu-ray and on various streaming services, including the Tubi. And that's a movie that I think if you enjoy Jellystone, you'll definitely enjoy this. It's a micro-budget Curtis comedy that I shot in Fargo, North Dakota with a bunch of my friends, and I'm very, very happy with that.
Yeah, I just opened up I was like, oh, I gotta watch the Blu-ray now before I see Toby next time. The movie just itself is very funny. Watch it on Tubi, but I will say the Blu-ray is full of like, you made a real ass Blu-ray with a ton of bonuses, 2 commentary tracks, 2.
And I will say, unlike Fargo, your movie takes place in Fargo. Fargo was more of a Brainerd film, and no one is talking about that.
Well, people in Fargo certainly were back then.
I bet.
But no, it is a true Fargo film, and thank you for the comments on the Blu-ray. We put a lot of love into the Blu-ray because, of course, if you're someone like me, you've been waiting your whole life to put together something like that. And I remember I reached out to various people, various friends, and I said, like, if you want to do something for the Blu-ray, I'll put it on the Blu-ray. Doesn't matter what it is, I'll put it on. So Greg Carlson, who plays AJ's dad, he curated that second commentary track. Owen, who did the visual effects for the movie, made a 40-minute documentary. Justin DeClue, who's one of the first people who saw and kind of was an advocate for the movie, did like an hour-long interview. And one thing that's also important to note is I really wanted to have a really good booklet with an essay. So I reached out to my friend Karen Hahn, and I was like, oh, something kind of like a Criterion essay as like a half joke. And then I'm like, wait, Karen Hahn wrote the Criterion essay for Oakja. She knows how to do a Criterion-style essay. So yeah, that was a true pleasure with Cartoona to do the Blu-ray for AJ and getting to do everything exactly how we wanted, putting together the artwork and everything. Like that was a real pleasure to do.
Oh, and Rebecca Sugar's music video as well for it is on there too. It's another great.
Yep.
It's yes, I can't wait for the Lost Tapes. I'm sure I am enjoying them quite a lot when you're listening to this episode. But thank you so much, Toby. This was this is what your episode of Jellystone deserved. Was this much?
Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Thanks once again to Toby Jones for being on the show. And as for us, if you want to support our show, get these episodes ad-free and then access a huge back catalog of content, go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons and sign up for just $5 American. And when you do, you can access all these podcasts ad-free and 1 week ahead of time, and also access, like I said, the vast back catalog of bonus podcasts. We've been doing it for almost 9 freaking years. Behind that paywall, you'll find shows about Futurama, King of the Hill, Mission Hill, Batman the Animated Series, and The Critic. And we also, for our patrons, put out an episode of both Talking Futurama and Talking of the Hill once a month. So that's bonus content on top of all the legacy content we have at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. And if you sign up for $10, well, of course you get the $5 stuff, but you also get a very long podcast once a month at that $10 level. What's going on there, Henry?
Bob is talking about our What a Cartoon movie podcast, which if you're a listener on the free feed, you get to hear the preview we have of it each month, but you get to hear the full thing, like 2 or 3 extra podcasts you get of us covering an animated feature film as in-depth as we do Jellystone. And that last month was us chatting about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. You got to hear that one in the free feed. At the end of this month, if you sign up to hear the full TMNT 2, then you're also going to get to hear the brand new one we do at the end of the month, 2011's Winnie the Pooh, the real last 2D film made by Walt Disney feature animation. And there's a gigantic back catalog there too, hundreds of hours of us covering tons of stuff. Hey, if you liked all the Evangelion talk, we covered End of Evangelion back in 2020. And we have Pixar, Studio Ghibli, Disney, the Renaissance, so many things. You can see it all for yourself if you go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. It's easy to find in the collections section too when you go there. And if you sign up, you get all of that stuff. And hey, did you know you get a 10% discount if you sign up for a year full at first? That's right. Sign up today at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons.
And I have been one of your hosts, Bob Mackey. You can find me on Blue Sky, Letterboxd, and many other places as Bob Servo. And my other podcast is called Retronauts. It's a classic gaming podcast about old video games. You can find Retronauts wherever you find podcasts, or go to patreon.com/Retronauts and find a bunch of cool bonus stuff there as well. And Henry, how about you?
You can find me on both Blue Sky and Instagram as Talking Henry. I'm always posting fun stuff there. And if you're following me and Bob on those social media platforms, don't forget at Talk Simpsons Pod, because that is the official account on Instagram and Blue Sky. It's going to let you know when we have new podcasts coming out of Talking Simpsons or What a Cartoon or any of our Patreon bonuses, or when we do fun charity extras as well. All the stuff that we do, you stay in the loop if you follow at Talk Simpsons Pod. And don't forget that all previously free releases of What a Cartoon and Talking Simpsons can be found at TalkingSimpsons.com.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you again next time for an extended free preview of our What a Cartoon movie episode all about 2011's Winnie the Pooh. And we'll see you then.
Buddy, I got a big bucket of blaster coming right your way.
You'll have to do better than that.
I can. Wait a minute. I actually got nothing. Oh, no. Oh, beans! Yeah!